Smiley face, right? Hold on, I gotta put my glasses on.
Way too small, man.
Even for Zach, that makes me feel a little better about myself.
Looking a little too closely yesterday.
If I hold this up, you can turn your mic on.
Okay, awesome. And it's still a learning curve here for some of us, so it's my fault, 100%. All right, at this time, it's my pleasure to bring this meeting to order, the April 9th Oshtemo Township regular meeting. And that being said, I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I will move to item number 3, which is remote location identification. And looking here at the dais, it appears that we have a complete board in presence. Thank you all. And so we will have no one joining us remotely. And so we move to item number 4, which is this opportunity for a member of this body to read a portion of the township's mission, vision, and core values statement.
Thank you. I will. Transparent governmental practices are of the highest priority.
Thank you, Trustee Chapman. Always working to be more transparent and process improved. At this time, Attorney Porter, if I may amend the agenda.
Yes.
So to the public and this body, I would like to amend agenda item number 8, consideration of issuance of IFT exemption for one-way products. Before you, you have an updated version of this item. And when we get there, if you turn to page 4 in that updated item, that first paragraph on page 4 is an addition that should have been included.
My apologies to the board.
Thank you, Attorney Porter. Do I need a motion to accept an amended agenda?
No.
Okay. So just be noted that when we get to item number 8, you have a new document to review with one new paragraph. At this time, is there anyone here in the public wishing to make comments that are not a part of the regular board meeting? I'm turning to Zoom. John, do we have anyone on Zoom? Thank you. We will move to item number 6, and we will begin with public official updates. And today we have with us Executive Director of Metro, Sean McBride, to share with us a status on their services.
Oshtemo Township Board. Thank you for having me here tonight to present about services provided by Metro. For those that don't know me or haven't met me before, I've been Executive Director of Metro since 2012. Before that, I worked for many years in city government, including a stint as city Portage, and I've served in other places around the country, including Tucson, Arizona, Highland Park, Illinois. But really love Kalamazoo County and serving the public with public transit services. So the mission of Metro is to improve the quality of life in the community by providing public transit services that are dependable, convenient, safe, efficient, cost-effective, and accessible for all. In Kalamazoo County, we've been providing public transit to the community since 1967. At that point, the city of Kalamazoo took over public transit services from a private provider. And since that time, there's been over 121 million rides provided to the community on a variety of services. And just this last year, we provided 1.82 million rides to the community. So why do people use public transit? The number one reason why people use public transit is to get to their job. Over 34% of our riders on the fixed route bus system use it for workplace transportation. Next highest is 26% for school purposes. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Recreation, medical, and other are the other main reasons. Since I took over in 2012, it's kind of interesting that work has clearly ascended to the number one reason why people use public transit. When I first got here, using it for school purposes was the number one reason. So this is really very much an economic development tool for the community. Our biggest service is our fixed route bus service. We service the urban area of Kalamazoo County with 21 different bus routes that service all of City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo Township, Parchment, Comstock Township, Oshtemo, Texas, and Portage. And just here in Oshtemo Township, we have 6 routes: the Alamo, Oakland, Stadium, West Main, Lovell, and Parkview campus routes that serve portions of Oshtemo Township. And interestingly, these are high ridership routes. The number 3, 4, 5, 6, and actually Alamo is the number 8 highest ridership route in the system. So there's extensive ridership in Oshtemo Township and the west side of town here. Since the pandemic was extremely tough on public transit, social distancing and riding on a bus don't necessarily go together, so we had to make a lot of changes on how we provided services. Ridership declined, our service levels declined. One of the reasons our service level declined was the challenges with the job market that a lot of industries faced, where it was challenging hiring CDL drivers. But since the pandemic, we have rebuilt our forces. We're about 64 out of 70 full-time drivers have been hired, and over 50% of our drivers are new since the pandemic, so quite a new and young workforce with us. One of the things that we're really working on as an organization is safety and security. In November of 21, there was a tragic incident at the Kalamazoo Transportation Center where there was a shooting the day after Thanksgiving. We had a shooter, individual with a gun, come on site and fire it several times. 3 of our passengers were hit. They were not severely injured, thank God. And then the shooter was quickly apprehended and killed by the Kalamazoo Public Safety Department. So one of our focuses as an organization was really doing everything we can to be industry leaders in public safety. So we partnered with the Transportation Security Administration. We've hired additional staff, including a dedicated manager that's strictly focused on safety and security. We've looked at our camera systems. We've partnered with our camera systems on site. We've partnered with our Amalgamated Transit Union. Most of our employees are members of a collective bargaining unit, the Amalgamated Transit Union, partnered with them on a variety of safety initiatives, installed safety barriers on the buses for our drivers, and we continue to work and try to be innovative in that area so our passengers are safe, our drivers are safe, and the public is safe. Our next biggest service is Metro Connect. It's our van, in a lot of communities it's called Dial a Ride. It's available for use by anyone to go anywhere in Kalamazoo County. Their fares are discounted if you're an individual with a disability or a senior citizen. Those fares are either $3 or $4 per trip. If you're not a senior or an individual with disability, it's $10 per trip. In 23, we did 126,000 rides on Metro Connect, and we're approaching where we were pre-pandemic on our service levels for Metro Connect. In Oshtemo Township, we provided 12,485 rides to Oshtemo residents last year, and we continue to see that increase. You're clearly the third highest ridership municipality within Kalamazoo County. As we look at what we do to the community, a key theme for us is partnerships and how we can provide value-added service to the community. One way that we provide value-added service is we're there when the community needs us. We're part of the emergency operations coordination with the Kalamazoo County. So we are called out at, for example, fires at high rises or a major snow event. We've been involved with evacuating people from those areas. There was a train derailment out here in Oshtemo Township. I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. We were part of the response to that to help evacuate the passengers to a warm location. And a couple of the partnerships we're proud of with Western Michigan University. All faculty, students, and staff have unlimited access to the fixed route system through a contract with Metro. As part of that, students are connected to the fixed route bus system through our route system off campus, but then we also have routes that are focused on campus that are available to the public. Oh, sorry about that. About 2 years ago, we started a process to really look at our services. It's a best practice in the public transit industry that you do a comprehensive operational analysis. Basically, that means we pay a consultant to come in and really look holistically at our public transit operation. What's working, where's high ridership, where can we improve services. Your current staff member, Scott Fitzgerald, worked at Metro at that time and was intricately involved in that. It's okay, it happens. He seems happy now, so that's good. So in looking at the fixed route bus system, we really want to make sure all our routes are highly productive. And what does that mean? That it's high ridership. It services areas that are high density and residential, and also provides areas that there's amenities around the south. It could be grocery stores, medical facilities, educational facilities. So we want to make sure every route has a distinct possibility for success. So there are recommendations that we'll be working on that in the next several years. But before we move ahead with that, one of the other recommendations of the comprehensive operational analysis was to start a new service called microtransit. This service is relatively new within the public transit industry. It's 5 or 6 years old within Michigan. There are some of the older systems. Some of the first to take it on are about 4 years into providing the service. Muskegon is one of those areas. And basically, it's Uber-like on-demand services for public transit. The difference with microtransit is that the rides will be shared, or there's a possibility that they could be shared. The rates are fixed. The rate we're going to charge for the service aligns with our fixed route bus system, so it's going to be $1.50 per ride. And then we have zones, and I'll talk about that in a subsequent slide, that the service is relatively limited in the zones that it serves. We've been working on this since the comprehensive operational analysis was completed over a year ago. We've done a lot of research. We've traveled to many of the providers that are doing this throughout the state of Michigan and talked with them about their experiences. This last fall, we put together a request for proposals and had a competitive process where we had 5 respondents, and we selected VIA, who's really the industry leader, not just nationally, but worldwide in the microtransit arena. So they're going to be our service provider. They're going to provide a turnkey service. What does that mean? That they basically, we pay the contract, and they have the software systems to do this. They hire the staff, the drivers, purchase the vehicles, maintain the vehicles, provide the customer service, and so forth. We're doing this as a 1.5-year pilot program. We're going to finish this off the pilot runs through the end of the year in 2025. And during that time, we really hope to learn how this program can be successful and build it from there. So since we brought on VIA in January, we've been working hard. This is really a high-speed implementation. We're working with it's very much a tech-based company with startup funding. So they work at a high speed. It is your typical MIT and Northwestern and Stanford engineering finance types that are running this. So it's kind of a fun high-speed group to work with as we're implementing this. And we'll be starting service next Monday. So April 15th, tax day. I hope you all paid your taxes. If not, you can use MetroLink to get you to the post office to deliver your taxes. And basically the zone one of the zones, the western zone, significantly covers the area of Oshtemo that's within the CCTA district. There's a more detailed map online. Let's see. There's the map there. So we have 3 zones: a south zone that significantly covers Portage, east zone that covers Comstock and part of city of Kalamazoo and Parchment. The west zone that significantly covers Oshtemo, a little bit of Texas Township and city of Kalamazoo. And so how it works is basically with a phone app. You can also call it in, but it's very much Uber-like, where you can schedule your trip and we'll know where you are with your GPS coordinates, and then you'll put in where you want to go or use a pinned place where you want to go. At that time, the phone app, the VIA phone app will say, hey, we can pick you up, or we don't have a trip available, or your trip's going to be multifunctional in how you get there. And so let's say you're going from KL Avenue. Now we can service, the zone is KL Avenue and Drake, or 9th Street, excuse me. We can service the homes right in that area, and they could come out to the Oshtemo Public Library, schedule that. The driver should be arriving within 20 to 30 minutes and take you to that location. There may be opportunities if you're moving outside the zone that you can't be dropped off directly outside the zone, but you could schedule a trip where the driver drops you off at a fixed route bus stop, and then you can continue your journey the rest of the way using the fixed route bus system. Transferring to the fixed route bus system would be free and no additional cost from the $1.50. So it's the MetroLink is clearly a name that we chose with some reasoning that we're trying to link this service to the rest of the system, and it's been very successful in a lot of other communities. The feedback that we're getting is that growth is solid, and it really meets a focused need for those that need public transit and those that want to use public transit differently. So we're very excited about this. We're excited to learn and hear your feedback over the next year and a half as we do this. The MetroLink app will be available this Friday. There'll be more information available on the Metro website also this Friday. You can load it up. And then on Monday, you can schedule your first trip. As part of our launch, we'll be providing 10 free trips with the service when you sign up. May have some more, just a couple other things, and I'll take a couple questions. I go from our new service to the very exciting topic of board governance. I know we all love board governance. So Clerk Farmer's been on the CCTA and KCTA board of directors for several years now.
Sean, will you, I mean, I know acronyms are always a thing, but would you please define those acronyms?
Oh, so thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
As a good government bureaucrat, I use so CCTA is the Central County Transportation Authority, and the KCT is the Kalamazoo County Transportation Authority. They're the two government bodies that oversee public transit. Board members are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners. They hire me to run the public transit system and make policy decisions to govern the public transit system. So one of the boards, and the interesting thing about the KCTA and CCTA boards is that they work jointly. They have a joint meeting, and they basically operate as one board. And they meet monthly. So one of their real focal points was, how do we become more effective as a governing board? We went through a process during the tail end of the pandemic, and one of the real takeaways, one of the things we've been focusing on is really maximizing the talents and involvement of our board members. There's about 15 individuals representing all areas of the county between the two boards. And so we have 3 committees that we've created that really focus on different areas of our organization. And Clerk Farmer is the chair of the External Relations Committee. And then finally, our transit funding. In '23, our operating revenues total about just over $20 million. And we have really four main sources of funding. The largest single source of funding is gas tax provided through the Act 51 legislation through MDOT. The Act 51 legislation, most of it goes to roads and bridges. Public transit is the other recipient of that. The next 2 biggest, most significant funding sources are voter-approved millages, one through the CCTA and one through the KCTA, and I'll talk just a little bit more about that in the next slide. Then fares and service contracts are 17%, and the FTA is 16%. They have operating revenue. Also, we receive a significant amount of FTA funding to provide capital funds for us to purchase our buses. Just for your information, a new bus these days costs about $690,000 to purchase. We run them for about 14 years and over about 600,000 miles every time we purchase a bus. So we are challenged, like a lot of organizations, by inflation. The cost of a bus just 3 years ago was just over $500,000, and now it's $690,000. So that is, it's a challenging and unique environment that we work in there. As far as the 2 millages are concerned, the CCTA millage is focused within the urban area. That's the shaded area there that covers a significant portion of Oshtemo. The millage is expiring after 2025, so I'll be shortly talking with you all on how do we want to move ahead with the future millage election and the boundaries that should be contained within Oshtemo Township. And then in '26, we will have a millage election for the KCTA. That's my presentation today, and I really thank you for your time and the partnership that Oshtemo Township has with Metro on providing essential public transit services to the community.
Thank you, Sean. Before you exit the podium, I want to give the board the opportunity to ask some questions. Trustee Chapman?
I have a couple questions, thank you. Metro Connect goes directly from a home to any location at the $10 fare, correct?
Yes.
And the Metro Link will go anywhere within the specific region for the 150, correct?
Correct.
One of the problems, first I want to thank you, because the zone that you put in is one of our highest density districts. As an individual who has been in unfortunate circumstances before, it's very difficult to go grocery shopping on a bus. You can basically only carry 2 bags, and you have to do it quickly because things go bad. Soggy ice cream, popsicles, etc. Will the Metro Link allow a person to carry more groceries. So if they're going from the apartments down the road to Meyer, will they be able to transport their groceries, a larger volume of groceries?
Yes, and I do not know what the new policy is on if there's any limitations. If you worked with us on utilize the Metro Connect, there are some limitations on the number of bags, and there may be a little service charge if it surpasses that number of grocery bags. But I do not remember the details of what we decided on the policy for grocery shopping, but it will certainly be easier and more than what you would be able to do on the fix-route bus.
Have you determined which vehicles will be utilized?
Yeah, we have, there'll be 2 vehicles assigned to the West District, the Oshtemo-ish district. I just made that up.
Good job at that.
And some are Toyota Highlanders, and there's another version about the same SUV size. We have 11 vehicles in the fleet. 8 of them will be accessible for wheelchairs or other assisted devices. When you are on the app, if you need a ramp, it will be a check mark within the app.
Will the individuals with special needs such as mobility, will they be prioritized above the general public?
We're not, with our Metro Connect service, we're maintaining the Metro Connect service, which is our federally mandated ADA service. There'll be no adjustments to that. That is the service that is strictly providing our ADA level service. This is to supplement that and may provide a need, but doesn't replace our ADA Metro Connect service.
Thank you.
And if I could just add, is mine?
Nope.
And again, thank you.
No,
Yeah,
it
This is great service.
No, it's not.
No, you're red.
Thank you.
Good, you're hot.
Oh, the
Red
one
is
up
good.
here is red. Supplementing the bus service is exactly right, and I just wanted to add that it is not door-to-door service, though, and that was mentioned earlier. So where if you walk out of Harding's on the corner of 9th and Stadium, it will direct you to, very likely, walk to the nearest bus stop. And then, if that makes sense for your trip, and then get on the bus to do the remainder or something like that. Or if you were going up 9th Street, because this service also is finally connecting West Main and Stadium along 9th Street, which is very important. That's been a goal of ours for at least the last 8 years, and my goal for the last 8 years. And so if you were to be going up maybe to Fountain Springs, the trailer park that's up near Quail Run, it could then pick you up and probably take you to the end of the driveway, I think it was like to the road service, and then you would walk the rest of the way. So this is a supplement to the bus service, and when you download the app, which I did, and you guys should as well, it will provide the directions to you to utilize both together if possible.
Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so I have a question kind of to piggyback on what Clerk Farmer just asked. And I know you had mentioned that it's not door-to-door, that you would basically go to a corner. But what Clerk Farmer just said was you would go to the nearest bus stop. So I guess I'm a little confused. Like, for example, let's say, so I'm living in Oshtemo off of 9th Street north of Meyer. There is no bus stop near where I live. Let's say I wanted to go to the airport. Would that be pick up, like how close to my house? And would that be just MetroLink, or would I potentially get on a bus?
So if
for
you
that?
wanted to go to the airport, the MetroLink service would pick you up in the proximity of your home or wherever you're starting from. It may, like Clerk Farmer mentioned, it may be at the end of the driveway or maybe a block away at the corner of blank and blank.
Okay, but it's not going to be several blocks?
No, it's,
Okay.
we've designed it so there's some limits on on how far you walk, and And the nice thing of working with a tech-based company, we can adjust those limits as we learn more about the customer base and how we operate here in Kalamazoo County. So you walk to the location, catch the Metrolink. If you're going to the airport, then your next part of the trip would be dropping off at a bus stop location, probably to connect with the West Main or Stadium bus to go downtown, and then connect to the next bus to go to the airport.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I have just one more question. Children under the age of 18 traveling without a parent or guardian, let's say a parent can't pick up their child and take them to wherever they need to go, and could they potentially direct them to Metrolink and know that they would not be getting on a bus, that they would be?
Yes.
Okay,
And I do not remember the age limitations off the top of my head, but I do have she was 14-year-old daughter at the time. I was raking my brain on how do I get her to her guitar lesson. And both my wife and I had another obligation, and it's just her guitar lesson, so I didn't want to bother a parent that's going out of their way to do it. So why not? So we called up Metro Connect and scheduled a Metro Connect trip for my 14-year-old daughter, picked her up in front of her house, dropped her off at her guitar location, and then came back at the end of the lesson. This is all pre-scheduled. It won't be on a phone app, so this is pre-scheduled a few
oh,
days.
so you
before.
can pre-schedule?
For the Metro Connect, you can. So that's still an option in the world too. And,
Yeah.
and we do know that there are several youth that use it that may do alternative educations, or maybe a child with a disability that does a K-RESA service, and they travel from Richland over to one of the K-RESA facilities.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic, because it's definitely a need. I have 2 children, one drives now, which, thank God, it's helped a lot, but it is difficult as a parent to have a child and both parents be working full-time, and if you can't get your child, to where they need to go, but you don't necessarily want them to be on a bus. So that leads me into my very last question, is your drivers, what background do they go through background investigation? What's the extent of that?
Extensive background and extensive training for our bus drivers and drivers within the system. To get a commercial driver's license, there's an extensive list of training and pre-employment testing that we do. We do background checks, interviews, written tests, and so forth. So usually our selection process takes at least a month to do all the work to go through that. And then the training segment, once they're employed, is 6 weeks. They do their standardized training, and then they do about 2 weeks of shadowing and practice driving before they're providing service out to the community.
Will Link be held to the same standard as it's being outsourced?
No, they are not CDL drivers. The training for the Metrolink passengers is customer service based. They'll be trained in the utilization of the wheelchair, and then there's been background testing. But they are not, they're employees, they're contractors or employees of VIA that will be providing the service.
One more question, sorry.
Yep.
Cameras, will there be cameras on the link?
At this point, there are not cameras, but they're planning to acquire those and install those over time. And on our buses, just for your information, every bus has 7 to 8 cameras on every bus. And
Yeah.
Good questions, thanks. Any other questions? Trustee Sikora?
Thank you for coming out and making the presentation. Very impressive. Glad to see that you're continuing to evolve and attack areas that need service, and that you're reaching out to people. Kind of related, or not related, I guess, whichever. There was something about the bus service coming out here to Oshtemo in the park that I thought it was being discontinued, part of it, or not, or has that changed? Is there any update that you can give us, or is it still
Sure.
in flux?
This link service supplements the bus service that will be
yeah.
discontinued.
So one of the
In Oshtemo,
No, good question. So the ridership between, let's say, 9th Street and out here is relatively low, and kind of one-off type ridership. if Metrolink is successful, we assume it'll be successful, then we'd probably look at here, using Metrolink as the way to get out to Oshtemo Township Hall, interconnect with the fixed route bus system. And then we'd look at that at some other areas, through the community. For example, there's 2 routes in the south end of Portage that are relatively low ridership. We're testing Metrolink down there significantly. If it works well, we could see replacing the fixed route buses down in that area and using Metrolink as the primary public transit service along with Metro Connect. And then reinvesting our fixed route services along our more high ridership route. So right now, often you have to wait at least 30 minutes, if not an hour, between every bus route. We'd invest in more frequency so you don't have to wait on some of our higher ridership routes, like West Main would be an obvious example of a route where you'd want to increase frequency from every half an hour if we could.
Well, thank you. And it comes to mind because working in our Parks Department and our Friends of the Parks, we're doing more things with the library. We have another thing that we're working on hopefully for this summer, and then other things that are going on in the park, and we're scheduling more events in the park here, and, to get people that little extra way, and then with walking paths and things like that, we're trying to do things to get people over here, but they still got to be able to get over here. So I just, encourage that and put in that plug for that. Thank you.
And you do have my favorite walking paths are back here, so.
Trustee Ford? Treasurer Bushka? I have one question and one comment. My first question, I just want to make sure I understood, is that for the Metro Link, that if somebody orders a Metro Link and then they do a transfer to a bus stop, it's $1.50.
It is $1.50.
Okay, that's important, I think. And then this is going to lead to my comment. Given the fact that MetroLink is a potentially shared service, I think the installation of cameras should be of high priority. Because I certainly would not want to put my 14-year-old youth in a vehicle that might be picking someone up. And so I appreciate that you're doing background checks on the drivers, or their contractor should be, before you contract with them, but I really think cameras should be a high priority in that service.
Yeah, and I will second that as well. Just the liability issue for Metro, of course, and I think if you want to include the parents that are comfortable putting their children on the link, that a camera would be really important. So I agree.
And I'll make sure to update Clerk Farmer on the timeline of that at an upcoming board meeting.
Yeah, no, that's great. That was just my comment. Thank you for coming this
Thank you.
afternoon. Thank you to Metro for thinking forward and being creative about the kinds of services that you can offer sort of west of the downtown area, or the more highly urbanized areas, trying to find a different word for that, but where more people live, so that we can, people that live further out can incorporate that. So I think it's a really great step forward in general for public transportation.
Well, and I do want to be very clear that this service does not go outside of the boundaries that this board established.
Right, I see. It's
So
on
the
map.
people who have access to this service are paying the tax that is related to this
Correct.
service. And that was very important because, like I said, closing that gap on 9th Street, those folks have been included, but haven't had the same level of access. And so I think that's
Well, and I
much
think-
better if we're going to continue to include them.
Sure, and when we get some data after their pilot, we would certainly entertain the idea of expanding, right? If the data demonstrated that, so. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for bringing updated stuff too for our office. Appreciated that. I do also, before we move forward, I see our County Commissioner, Dale DeLue. Did you want to come forward and share any news with the board?
Supervisor Bell and trustees, thank you. Dale DeLue, your county commissioner. I'll be brief because Sean always does a great job of presenting to whoever he is in front of. A week ago tonight, the county board allocated millions of dollars of the housing millage funds. As you know, these funds are earmarked for low-income housing projects. So most of them are in the city of Kalamazoo, but we're happy to say this year, we gave money for projects in Schoolcraft Township, Comstock Township, and the city of Portage. There are no projects that applied for the monies in Oshtemo. However, as I alluded to last month when I was here, there is a program that we also gave extra $300,000 for because it's such a successful program. And before it was just for the residents of the city of Kalamazoo, and now it's countywide. And it's called Community Homeworks. They will do mostly interior emergency home repairs for people that can't afford to have them done. But also they offer an education program. They put on classes every week for any homeowner, regardless of income, on home repairs, because they feel it's essential for people to stay in their own homes, which is why they help fix them up. But they would like the owners to know how to do it themselves and keep their homes up. So we're very happy to finance that project. And secondly, real quick, the Kalamazoo County Parks Department is looking for 40 summer employees. Last year, the county board opted to make the minimum wage of $15 an hour for the parks employees. So they want people, you have to be over the age of 18, but anything over that qualifies. You can work 20 to 40 hours a week at any one of the various parks in Kalamazoo County, whatever they need and whatever you want, so that's all I have.
What was the dollar amount for the housing awards?
The total dollar amount? Well, I honestly, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. We had so
No,
many
that's
different.
okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot because I've
millions.
read a couple different numbers and I couldn't remember if you had just said it. Don't worry about it.
No, I think the total millage brings in $7 million a year. So I don't know if Housing Director Balkema allocated all of that at this time, because I know there's some projects still that they almost promised money for the next year, but somewhere in the area of 5 to 7 million last week. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I know I read this story about, I think, I just want to be sure, the housing millage is not just low-income housing, but it's building affordable workforce housing, too.
Correct.
I read the story about Portage's work, and we definitely have an eye on utilizing that millage in Oshtemo in the future. We have some plans.
That'd be great.
We are, just one step at a time.
Well, it's needed everywhere, and Oshtemo's doing nothing but growing, so looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for the commissioner before he exits? Thank you. Do we have anyone else here who represents a public entity wishing to make a statement for public official time? No? Okay, I just don't want to miss anyone in case I don't have my glasses on, and so maybe I can't see you clearly, actually. All right, moving forward, seeing no other public official updates, I'd like to move to item number 7, which is our consent agenda. Item A, the meeting minutes from the board meeting on March 26. Item B, the meeting minutes from the joint board meeting, March 19th. Receipts and disbursements as reported by the clerk, and a second reading text amendment to floodplain management ordinance, section 273.003, designation of regulated flood-prone hazard areas, and item E, first quarter budget amendments. Is there any member of this body wishing to pull an item off of the consent agenda?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Ford and a second by trustee Chapman to adopt the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we'll move to item number 8, consideration of issuance of IFT exemption for One-Way Products Incorporated. You were presented with an amended document in front of you. The only amendment is the first paragraph, or the only change, it's not an amendment, the only change is the addition of paragraph number 1 on page 4, and at this time, I would like to turn it over to Attorney Porter for a beginning of this conversation.
Thank you. Just an additional update as the board. Apologies, I thought I had mine on, sorry. Just a quick update, I had presented the board with your formal policy, I believe, over a week ago, and then I supplemented it recently with a memo regarding a report after discussing the matter with the zoning administrator and the assessor. Of course, your treasurer is already here, so she can comment for herself. The only other follow-up question I was asked is what impact it would have if you granted the IFT to One-Way. As things stand right now, you have a police and fire SAD. It would not affect that because they're special assessments. They are not taxes. You would, based on the increase on this property, you'll collect an additional $10,125 for that. The actual impact on the township's revenues would reduce your overall income for your charter millage and your road millage on 2.75 mils from approximately $6,100 to approximately $3,093 per year. So you'll lose about $3,000. As far as the county millage, I rounded the numbers, and basically it would reduce the overall applicant's taxes on this addition from roughly $112,000 per year to roughly $56,000 per year. But again, that's the impact on the township, I would say, is your police and fire would go up $10,000, and your general charter and road millage would drop by about $3,000. So that's the financial information. Again, I've given you the policy, tried to give you the update. You also had attached to the update was a memo from your planning director indicating what some other communities are doing, such as Portage, which is to widen the IDDs so that people don't have to go through the two-step process. The reason, in part, that this came back to you again is because the last time you did not have a full board. You have a full board now. So I think Faraday wanted to reapply, and in addition to that, around that same time, then One-Way Products that had previously received an IFT approached us with a request. If there's anything I can tell you about the particular application or information, I'd be happy to share it.
And Supervisor Bell, I'd be happy from One-Way Products, be happy to answer any questions you might.
Yeah, we have representatives from both of those projects in the audience.
Thank you. Yeah, I will get there. I just want to, before we move to the applicant on item 8, I want to make sure we're pulling, these are, item 8 and item 9 are two different things.
Two different things. The one, you already have an IDD that takes in the property. That is simply creating the district in which you can then construct a facility that would qualify for an IFT. It's sort of a two-step process. That's the way the townships handled it historically. Other communities are starting to do it differently, but that's how we've always done it in the past. That's why you have to, Faraday is coming for the IDD, meaning we have to create the district, Industrial Development District, before you can even consider an IFT. There's no further information on that one other than, do you want to, within your development park, create this IDD? That's the only question on number 9.
Thank you. Before I move forward, inviting the applicant to the podium, I guess we can come back to Attorney Porter during board discussion. So at this time, I would welcome if there's anyone from One-Way Products wishing to discuss item number 8. I would welcome you to come to the board or to the podium and introduce yourself and share with the board your application or your request, rather.
Great, well, thanks very much. My name is Isaac Hinkle, I own One Way Products, and we've had the privilege of being in Oshtemo since 2017. We moved here from downtown Kalamazoo, built a new building on KL Avenue, and I want to thank you for your support of our company. You did, as Attorney Porter said, you granted our IFT request back in 17. And if you refer to our application, in 2017, when we moved to the township, we had 24 employees, and today we have 44. And so I think that we've held up our end of the bargain. You offered us an exemption partial exemption from that tax, which we appreciate very much. And your investment has helped us to hire more people. And so I want to thank you for that. And so we added, we've gone from about 25,000 square feet to almost 70,000 here in Oshtemo. And we've got a site plan to continue to expand our building in the future as we continue to try to grow our business. If you don't know about One Way Products, we're in the cleaning supply business, and we're also in the cleaning chemical manufacturing business. So we sell stuff to all over the state of Michigan, and with an acquisition of a different company, we actually sell all over the eastern half of the United States. And we're really proud of what we're doing, and thankful to be in Oshtemo.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkle. Do I have that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, good. At this time, I'd invite board members, if they have any questions, to direct to Mr. Hinkle regarding this issuance of an IFT exemption. Clerk Farmer?
So we do this every time that an IFT comes before us, but, so this reads as though, it read sort of two different ways. One is if the addition has already gone in, but then the other piece sort of acted like this was necessary to allow for continued growth and onboarding. So
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
in our memo from our attorney,
Okay.
it says that the existing building, that 32,250 square feet of production, warehouse, and office space to the existing building was added.
It-
And then at the end, I just got confused because
Well, because under the Act 198, you have up to a year of installation to come in and request the IFT.
thank you for clarifying that. I mean, that's good information for the whole board. Sure. Yeah.
And just to add one thing to that, you know, it was my error that I didn't come earlier. I thought that once you had your IFT, if you're on that site, additional space that might be added to that would just sort of be lopped onto the original exemption. And so when I came to talk to Attorney Porter and ask some questions about it, it's not the way it worked. And so I was confused too. And so that's why we're a little late in coming.
But you're not late, you're still within,
Yeah, I think we're good within the
Yeah,
boundaries, but just so you know, I should have, in retrospect, we should have come earlier. But I just didn't
We'll say
realize that we
could
needed
have.
to. Or could have, that's right,
yeah.
ideally.
Any other questions?
So I just have a legal question for Attorney Porter. When we renew it, or extend or renew, however you want, it's a little confusing.
Expand?
To an extension of a building, does that reset the date of the initial IFT?
No,
Or is there
just-
two?
There'll be basically 2 IFTs running.
Okay, thank you.
I had a clarifying question on that as well, too. So,
Oh,
'cause-
Before, before we move, I just want to, if there's any questions specifically for Mr. Hinkle from this body.
no, mine will be for Attorney Porter.
All right.
Okay, thanks
Thank
very
you.
much, appreciate it.
Then I'll move into board discussion. Thank you.
Yep.
So-
Apologies, but
No, no worries. So I guess this would be for Attorney Porter. So since they're discussing even further growth, would there be any detriment to us to have a limit on that? Because as he stated, he kind of thought that it would just automatically, extend to the new growth. So every single time they add, they're going to have to come back. And I guess what's the purpose of that if
Well,
we've
part
already
of-
issued it?
Yeah, that's a good question. The reason you look at it each and every time is, under the statute, you want to be assured that you're not impairing your budget, your ability to pay your bonds, That's why the assessor was asked about whether or not it met the criteria for 198. It clearly does. Basically, you want to make sure that you aren't affecting more than 5% of your overall budget. And I think at roughly $3,000 a year, I think you're probably affecting 0.000000% of your budget. So I don't think there's any concern there, but that's why they put it in place. Depending on the size or the impact of a large development, extremely large development, it could impact the overall budget. And the other reason you want to do that, your question's a good question. Should we look at this from, in the future? I think if the board is going to modify or amend its policy, then it should be amended in the written policy. Because we want to be able to, whatever the board wants to do, we need to follow what you've adopted in your written policy. So if there are changes, if the board wants to move forward with changes in the future, then we should do it probably during a work session to discuss changes to the overall policy.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Any other questions for Attorney Porter regarding this item? Okay, well, any other discussion regarding item number 8?
I will make a motion to adopt the resolution for the issuance of the Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate for One-Way Products Incorporated.
Second.
A motion by trustee Cole, a second by trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes. Yes. As the way I see.
Discussing the motion, Mr. Chapman.
Discussing the motion, is it appropriate at this time, before we have discussion, to move forward on this motion? So I would ask that we consider voting no on the current motion to allow time for discussion.
We can discuss now.
I asked for discussion.
Yeah.
Oh,
We can discuss now.
I misheard you.
Oh, I have a motion to discussion. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, so the way tax abatement is a tricky thing for me. I see it as a tool to recruit businesses to your community. I see it as a tool to grow your community. But there has to be a fine balance between the commitment our citizens have to pay to maintain our community, our roads, and everything a business needs to grow and thrive. And I have problems with waiving taxes on businesses, as businesses do typically utilize more of the services of a community. They should hold up the responsibility of investing in the community beyond just the building and the jobs. They have to have roads, they have to have services in order to be successful and flourish. And those come at a cost. And I think that the cost shouldn't be just borne by the citizens of the community. It should be a mutual. And in this case, in this specific one, a tax abatement was given. That tax abatement did allow further growth. It did recruit into our community, and we're grateful for that. I don't think there's anybody here who wouldn't say that. But expansion, while it's good for our community, I don't know that we have to subsidize that. The growth has occurred, the business is here, and I just can't support further tax abatement.
Any comments? Any further comments from this body?
I would just say, Michael, I appreciate your comments. I think I've struggled with the topic, the issue at hand. I think one thing that allows me to feel more comfortable with where we're at, and I think what we might end up doing here tonight, is that we also look at helping folks with taxes when they have lack of assets and income. So if we weren't doing it on the other end, I would be 100% with you. But I think we can do both things in this case. We can take care of folks who are struggling financially in our community, help them stay in their homes, but we can also invest in the community and try to help grow businesses and bring jobs. So think for the cost of the investment, it's worth it.
Yeah, and I would also say, I understand your comments as well, but I think Attorney Porter's clarification on the reasoning that we continue to relook at it as growth occurs, to make sure that it isn't impacting us negatively, in that effect where we can't pay. And then I think we also can't overlook the increase for our police and fire, the SAD, because the fire department obviously takes up a huge chunk of our budget, and we always need that. We're talking about hiring 4 more firefighters right now, so I think that can't be overlooked as well. But I appreciate your comments, too.
The only comment I would add is that if this board would seriously like to take a look at this further, then we should schedule a work session where we review our policy and look at any possible amendments we would have to it. Or even a work session where we discuss policies in general, because it's been on my mind quite a bit lately, that we don't discuss our policies very much, very often, and often these policies were set by boards before the people were sitting here right now.
I think it's a good idea. I'm sorry, were you done?
No.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I would
Really?
agree. I'd like to look at the policy. Wouldn't mind bringing some stakeholders in. I know we've got partners at Southwest Michigan First that are probably, well-versed in some of these incentive tools.
I'd like to add to Dusty's comments. From a board's perspective, I understand when we get here, we have sometimes philosophical differences on how to move forward. But from an administrative standpoint, when you have a supervisor, an attorney, and they're trying to present what the policy is to the public, and then if you come to the board, and then the board radically changes from a stated written policy, the preference from administration would be, let's
Right.
look at our policy, please.
and I think that our beliefs can be reflected in our policies, certainly in the many iterations I've had of the purchasing policy.
You know what, tell me again about that purchasing policy. I'm gonna arm wrestle you
It's up for amendment again this year, so. But I actually I've had this conversation quite frequently lately. Our policies have to reflect what we do, and if we want to change them, then that's the work we need to do. And we absolutely can spend time doing that
And
as a
it is
board.
good to be accountable to the policy, because our treasurer pointed out that I had not followed up and given the board the report called for in our policy. And I said, you're darn right, except I might have used another word. And then we sent the information out.
I do have a highlight on that, by the way. I was going to bring
Yes.
that up as well.
Any other comments?
So I just have a question. I believe the last time we talked about an IFT, there was a company or a person mentioned that keeps track of growth and increased employee numbers and things like that. Do we ever hear from that person as to whether
The last
the
time
approvals have followed through?
That request was made to Southwest Michigan
Yeah.
First, and.
I think they do track it. Last I heard, the Southwest
But,
Michigan
like, how
First
would we
is
know,
tracking.
how do we know?
So I think all we have to do is ask, first of all, and I think we were talking at that time about, was it Flavorsome? Was it that expansion? And so I guess I would say that the communication between the township and Southwest Michigan First, as far as being more consistent and working partners, is improved greatly, and I think all we have to do is ask.
Well, I mean, I guess my thought process, and this would apply to any, not just today with 8 and 9, but anything in the future, is if we're looking to add an extended IFT or an additional IFT to an extension, if we can pull up something like, hey, this is what they actually have done, here's a report, and I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth here, but if that means that somebody from the township follows up on those things, even if it's myself, maybe that's a step further where we need to go.
So you're talking about directly,
Like, I could contact
Knowing
Mr.
the-
Henkel and go, hey, can I pay you a
I-
visit real
I
quick,
think-
quick, and how are we doing?
I think that that's a great idea. you know, if you want to own it in your world, that's fine. But it is about I mean, I believe that communication back and forth between, you know, employers of the township and the township as a governing body, or as a government, is positive. So,
A very good point on your part, and in fact, I did follow up personally with Mr. Hinkle and explained to him that the board had concerns as to whether they were getting value for their community. And that's why I specifically asked that he be here, because he said, well, we have a very positive story to tell. You know, we've doubled our employment because of what the township helped us do. And so even though it wasn't a report from Southwest Michigan First, I did want him to be able to be here and explain to the board what was done in our community.
So I'm going to throw it out there as new business for another meeting.
Well,
I'm offering to do that.
I appreciate that, because
That's really good, yeah.
that goes to the transparent governmental policies, wow, that I mentioned at the beginning, and that I read at the beginning. And I think it is important to be transparent and public with our investment and what the return on investment has been.
hold on, something skipped over my head here.
Oh.
What is your
I
request?
would like to go do what?
You suggested?
Yes.
Oh, heck yeah.
I don't know if that could
Claire,
additional,
IFT, look at, I just
additional
made a
board
little note.
discussion
I
at
got
another
it.
meeting, but.
All right, no, we can make, and I made a note about work session on IFT policy, and I'll just put and others, because this is, policy often comes up internally, not so much at the board level.
And I can't keep asking for information when it's information I can go get myself. I mean, I guess that's how I operate.
No, it's good, it's good feedback. I want to respond to trustee Chapman's comments, and also related to trustee Ford's. So this was the first year that, so this board set that when we changed the poverty levels for residents that were coming in requesting alleviation of tax burden, and that was a bold move, and it's something that we should be very proud of. And as I was sitting in the Board of Review this year, the members of the Board of Review are excellent citizens and very, very good stewards of township with regard to following the rules and making sure that, you know, we are setting boundaries and staying within the law. But the new levels that we added by following that, though that relief would be aligned with minimum wage, were a huge surprise to the Board of Review. And there was a lot of discussion about how much that level that income level had increased. And that was a board decision to do that. So I do think we are doing it on both ends. I mean, I think that we raised the level at the Board of Review for the poverty guidelines so that more people had access. And, I mean, this is the other side of that coin. And you'll see in your next board packet, actually, that the Board of Review report prepared by the assessor will be in there, that will actually show you the number of applicants, the impact on the tax collection, all that stuff. So, anyway, I just wanted to, comment on that, because I guess I haven't looked at other communities to see if they had amended their poverty guidelines for that.
Please
but
don't bring this up to other communities.
Huh?
Please don't bring this up to other communities.
Why?
I don't know. If more people get as generous as ours, then the rules will change at the state level, and we won't be able to provide this kind of relief to
Well,
our residents anymore.
And, I mean, I don't want to get too.
Because we're
far
giving
in the
away other
dirt.
people's tax dollars. That's the.
So, I don't know. I think it's a point of pride, frankly, and it's, for a variety of reasons. Okay,
There's a motion and support. Are we ready to call it?
Roll call.
If there's a motion, support, and no further discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to chime in. Yeah, I appreciate all the comments. I agreed with everything that everyone has said. It's been a fascinating little journey to get back up to speed and learn how these work and what the pluses and minuses are. And then having gone to Southwest Michigan first and talked with some of the folks there and learning how this bigger picture works of keeping businesses, attracting businesses. And I don't know if you remember Southwest Michigan First, but you might want to tell them that you had to come and give us a nice little presentation, and they should have been doing this too, or whatever. But I think it's the right way to go, and I definitely support this.
If there's no other conversation, I will close board discussion, and this is a roll call vote.
Trustee Cole?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Chapman?
No.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
I vote yes. Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 6-0 with one voting no. 6-1 with one voting no.
Like, wait, what?
Zero.
You didn't math very well.
Bad, dead, and zero.
I was about to say, thank you, Clerk Farmer. All right, so moving forward, the resolution is adopted. This is hard stuff, folks.
Just, Supervisor Bell, just out of curiosity, your building is on a bus route. I wonder how many of your employees maybe take the bus? Since we just had a presentation, unfortunately, the director's left.
A little further to the east.
Okay.
So I know we do have a few that do. I'm trying to think the stop, I think the stop is even past the stoplight there on the street.
Oh, I think it's close. Well,
I don't know that it goes all around the corner there. but-
Doesn't it stop at like 58?
yeah, the apartment complex. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just kind of clicked in my mind, and you're also located right on, you know.
we'd love it if you bring would come further down. That would really be helpful.
Well, now with
You're
my,
gonna have sidewalks.
well, now with Metro Link, we can supplement that bus service.
Good, no, it's okay, trustee Sikora. All right, moving forward, item number 9, consideration of creation of IDD for Faraday Properties LLC. Trustee, Attorney Porter, will you please introduce this item for the board?
Yes, you'll recall that Faraday was here a short time back. There was not a full board. There's no limitation on their ability to resubmit. I met with them, informed them that they have the right to resubmit. Basically, your criteria under your policy is that they submit an application, that the property has to be located within the general industrial area, and it is in fact within our, what we call BTR 2.0, and they haven't commenced any operation there, so they meet that criteria of your policy. They have to have municipal water and sewer utilities available, which they do in that location, and I would be remiss if I didn't remind the board that you paid for the sewer and the water. And as companies develop within that BTR 2.0, you'll have money come back to you in the form of revenue for connecting the sewer and water. Basically, it says that the board will analyze the project and will determine if it will benefit the community. I can't give you any of the tax information because they're not at that point of an IFT. It's simply, do you create the district? To make that available so that they then could come in and present an application for an IFT.
Thank you, Attorney Porter. I just want to ask a clarifying question before we move to the applicant. We have to create an IDD before an application for an IFT is permissible.
That's correct.
And, okay, I just want to make sure we all understand that.
Jim, one other question about the district.
Yeah.
Do we have to know the intended use, right? We can't come out and establish the district ahead of time?
You just have, well, in theory, you could say, you could create an IDD for the entire BTR 2.0 if you want. You could do what, in essence, Portage is doing now, saying if it's an industrial. The only thing you would have to know is is this an industrial use that would fit within BTR 2.0? And the answer to that, of course, is yes.
Okay. I think it would make sense, if that's not fully developed out now, to just do that, so we don't have to do a two-stepper every time.
We could notice, and that could be part of your discussion when you take up
When
the
we do
whole
the policy
issue.
stuff. Okay, that's fine.
Because tonight, it's only noticed out for this single
Understood.
parcel.
Totally
And-
understood.
And again, my apologies to the board if you want to move that direction. It's just that we've never
No, that's
done it
fine.
that way
I
before.
was just asking the question for understanding, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Attorney Porter before I move to the applicant?
I have a question. So if you grant the IDD for an individual parcel, does that, let's say Faraday, after 5 years in business, 10 years in business, were to vacate, does that district, does the IDD transfer to another as it is the plot? It's the district. It's the plot of land and the building
Is
on
the
it.
district on the
Does it follow
property
the
or the
land?
business?
Yeah, the district's on the property, but the IFT, if they abandon that, then the IFT would go away. The fact that there would be an
Okay.
underlying district would be of no effect unless a new owner came in with new equipment or something, or an addition, then you would be right back to where we were when we talked about, Kristen's comment was, well, how do we keep track of these? By granting the IFTs on a periodic basis.
So given that this is in an industrial development, industrial park, and this goes to Trustee Ford, it seems it would behoove us to do the district for that entire district instead of an individual property, as it is something we have designated a development district, and then look at each individual case for the
The
exemption.
IFT, I would not disagree.
And
But we
is-
cannot do that tonight because we
We
would have to
haven't
do
noticed.
noticing.
Right,
So-
but that would be something for
But yeah,
us
it
to
was-
consider.
I think when you
Some
take
future
up the
thought
general
conversation,
discussion
I guess.
about the policy, maybe there are things you want to clarify in the policy, additional reports you want in the policy, sit clear on everybody about,
Well, and I
Accounting.
mean, we would want to include, unless things have changed,
Like
I
that,
believe the Western Michigan University Foundation is still the developer for BTR 2.0. So, I mean, I totally appreciate the thought and the idea for sure, but I would, we would want to certainly include them in a bigger conversation like that. I don't even know how many lots are in BTR.
well, I have had some feedback on that, and
Seven?
unfortunately, only one parcel's been developed.
But I don't know how many parcels are in there. So if we
I
do an
wanna say
IDD on the entire thing, I don't.
Eight or
Is
nine.
it 8? Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Attorney Porter? Seeing no questions for Attorney Porter, I at this time would invite the applicant to approach the podium and share anything about the project you'd like to share with us, any additional information, and take questions, of course.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you discussing this again. And I wasn't aware that it was just for the parcel. We've had conversations with Western, and as the president for the Association of the BTR2 Park, we'd love to seek approval for the entire park as well, because we think that it would spur the growth. As somebody mentioned here, there's only been one sale in the park, and we'd love to see that park get developed, and we think that this, even the IDD, which again takes you to the next step of future approval, will spur that development in talking with both Western and with local realtors as well. So just a quick summary, one of you asked about, I think Mr. Ford asked about what Faraday is, and so I just wanted to give kind of a quick breakdown of what Faraday is and where we've come so far. So Faraday is a part of a family of several businesses owned by a local family. All of those businesses currently in Oshtemo Township area. Faraday itself was founded in 2016, so about 6-7 years ago, and since then has seen about 40% growth and gone from 2 to 6 to 8 to last time we saw you, we had 14 employees, and now we have 19 employees. We expect 400% growth this year in sales based on some contracts that we've been working through with universities and public schools across the country for particularly one of our products, which is a cell phone bag for students to put their cell phones in. Faraday itself we do research, design, development, and manufacturing of advanced electrical device technology. So these could be anything from our bags to our cases. We build full rooms for many government agencies as well, where they can securely open and unlock electronic devices without chance of them being wiped or hacked by somebody. So these provide EMP, EMF, radiation protection, electromagnetic interference and static discharge protection, and most importantly, data security protection. So as the cybersecurity and AI and technology world is moving as fast as it is, that's what's spurring our growth. This is a very high demand product that we're manufacturing and designing and continuing to come up with new products on a regular basis. As I mentioned today, we've got 19 employees. Our expectation is to hire 3 to 4 employees per year going forward for the foreseeable 5 to 7 years. And these positions would be sales, R&D, customer management, engineering, construction, and logistics positions. So a good breadth of different positions. And currently we're, from a budget standpoint, the cost of construction since we originally got our estimate has gone up from higher $6 million to over $10 million. So it's handicapped our ability to both do the construction and pay for the higher increase of taxes as a result of that higher value of that construction as well. So that's causing, with our cash flow issues with any growing business, from hiring new employees and salaries and inventory management, we really need the assistance and support of the community to build our building here. And that we're on pause until we get that incentives. We want to stay within Oshtemo Township and continue to employ people in this area. We do have land in other areas, one of them including the area we're looking at is Portage, and we'd like to be here, other businesses are here, and so we'd like to see the support of the IDD and the future application and support of our IFT as well. I think that kind of summarizes where the business is, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I think what I missed in my notes is, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Kyle Cisco.
Mr.
Yeah.
Cisco,
Yep.
thank you. Do any members of this body have any questions for Mr. Cisco regarding this project? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you.
At this time, are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
Hello again, Dale DeLue. When this originally came up, I was contacted by Mr. Cisco seeking my support as the County Commissioner for Oshtemo Township. I then took it to the full board, the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners, and this project has unanimous support from the board. We'll always appreciate local companies that want to stay local, and especially in this circumstance, they want to build in an area that has turned out to be a very underutilized portion of Oshtemo Township. And I also appreciate what you did for one-way products, but is the support of the Kalamazoo County Commissioners that you pass this request for Faraday, as we would like to keep them right here in Oshtemo? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks.
An Oshtemo resident.
Jim, Trustee Sikora and I were just looking at this resolution,
Yes.
and I'm wondering if there might be a problem with the description. I'm looking at the title of the resolution, and then the second line, it's describing Faraday Properties, owner of land in Section 25 of the Oshtemo Charter Township located at 5912 Venture Park D. which land and premises are more particularly described as parcel number, and then it describes BTR. But isn't the Venture Park the road over off of Quail Run Drive? There are other,
Well, they're currently located on Venture Park Drive, but the parcel at issue is Unit 3 within parcel number 25430010. That's just the address of Faraday where they're at now. They're on Venture Park Drive.
okay, but that
But-
says that the land and premises are particularly described as, and then a different land and premises than the,
Oh,
I
I see what you're
appreciate the
saying.
clarification. I will,
That won't prevent us
I will
from
clean
passing
that
the
up.
resolution,
Sorry
though.
about
okay.
that.
So,
Sorry, I just want to make sure that wasn't going to be a problem for us, that,
No.
I know what we're trying to do, I just want
I
to make
think
sure.
you
that-
just.
It would have been if you hadn't pointed it out, you hadn't caught it ahead of time.
Trustee Sikora, good
I think
eye.
it just needs to be the land and premise are more particularly described.
We can adopt the resolution, and then that can be corrected in the legal department. Tomorrow is really when it'll happen.
Because we're approving the BTR property, not the Venture Park property.
Correct.
Sorry about that.
So I have a question, and I don't have it here, so you might have to do some sketching again. Financial impact. Do we?
We can't really address that because we don't know what the extent of the investment's going to be.
It's just the district at this
I
point.
tend to think that the investment, what I heard tonight from Kyle, was that it'll probably be more than what you heard from One Way Products, which will mean more for fire, and then the only impact would be it'll impact your charter millage and your road millage. But in addition to that, unlike One Way, you will have additional connection fees for sewer and water, which will support those programs. So we'll try to give you those when the IFT comes forward.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from this board concerning item number 9? Any other comments from the public? This time, I will close public comment on item number 9. And no other discussion?
I move to adopt a resolution creating industrial development district for Unit 3 of the Western Michigan University Business Technology and Research Park 2.0.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Ford. Who wants to take responsibility for the second?
You have to just say
Treasurer
it.
Bushka?
There we go. It's in.
It'll be a fight.
Any discussion on the motion? No discussion on the motion. All in favor say aye.
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 Oh, roll
Oh,
call, sorry.
Sorry, I should have said it again, I'm sorry.
Oh, I need your paper.
I know.
to me. I'm sorry. This is a roll call vote. Clerk Farmer.
Treasures.
The wheels have fallen off the
Congratulations.
bus.
Congratulations on the promotion.
Get control. Okay. Trustee Sikora. Trustee Sikora.
Yes.
Trustee Chapman.
Yes.
Trustee Ford.
Yes.
Trustee Cole.
Yes.
I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka
Yes.
and Supervisor Bell.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Thank you all.
Gosh.
Appreciate that. So the legal, you'll make the change, that
Yes.
small text change to, it's page 31 in our packet, but on that resolution, just clarifying the address of the business
We will do that.
to, versus the IDD to the parcel named. All right.
Can we take, can we take the process or start the process for the entire park? We can't do that here right now, I know, but can we start the process because I have to do the public hearing, et cetera?
I would like to get, I don't mean to be a stick in the mud, but we are literally in the middle of the master plan. And so I would rather take this and add it as a part of our master plan and move forward then.
That's a thought, the whole idea of
To
where to address it.
identify a property.
How long will that take? Like,
Well, our master plan will
6
be,
months
should
to a
be,
year?
yeah, our master plan should be presented within the next year, the fully complete master plan.
But we could have this done in a month or two.
Well, I would say that we would need, at the very least, a work session to be able to review our policy. I mean, that would be a baseline starter for this process, for this board, I think. I guess that's a tough one. We have, it's pretty defined what we're going to be doing in our master plan. I don't know if we can just add on to it, honestly.
Okay.
No,
Like,
I mean, but
I
we
agree
can,
with-
it's a possibility, I just don't know.
It feels like spot zoning to me. I mean, I know it's not the same, but it's similar. Like, we're just gonna pick out a chunk in the community and we're gonna lay this particular, development over the top of it when we're in the middle of a master plan. So, you know, why wouldn't we consider any other areas of the township? If we were gonna do that, we might as well identify other areas of the township where this would apply as well. So, I'm not, I
And-
mean,
and
I'm
we
not
can
saying
also-
no, I'm just saying.
We can
I don't
also
wanna
review the
rush.
policy without,
We can, for
doing-
sure.
yeah,
No, we absolutely can do that. And maybe a plan comes out of that policy review that makes sense. But I don't want to, I mean, I understand the desire. I just don't want to, like, roll the cart right out of the garage without sort of taking the idea in totality. That seems, I don't know, I just like to think through it a little more than that. But I do have work session on policy, IFT, and others, including BTR 2.0, so. Okay, it is now 7 o'clock, we still have a number of items. Does this body wish to take a 15-minute break and come back at 7:15, or do we want to go boldly forward?
I would suggest that we do the next item, because I think that that will be fairly simple, and then take a break.
Okay.
Do you want to take public comment for this next item, the mitigation plan?
Sure.
Okay.
I think I should.
I'm going to
for
add it in
everything.
the minutes then.
For all of you down there holding it, we'll get through item number 10.
I guess you'll make your choices on whether or not you want to comment on this.
Yeah. Next, we move to item number 10, a resolution for the 2023 Kalamazoo County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Attorney Porter, would you please introduce this item to the board?
Yes, the county has requested that we approve the county's 2023 hazard mitigation plan. When we went through that, we noticed a number of items that were not necessarily current, and I actually reached out and contacted the representative from Kalamazoo County Public Information Officer, Andy, is it Anspaugh?
Alsbach.
And he said basically that will be updated as they roll into a new plan, but even the positions that reference an older name, say for a supervisor or something, still identifies the township supervisor, identifies the fire department, identifies the necessary entities within the township that would participate in this overall plan. I did not include the plan in your packet because I think it was like 250 pages long. I was very impressed with the amount of detail. Not only does it itemize what we have in this community, but it addresses how those supplies and departments and personnel will interact with each other in case of a natural or a man-made disaster. And so they really like to have all of the units signing on. Our biggest commitment to that overall plan is basically to commit our fire department to be part of that overall plan. So it comes with their request and recommendation, and then there's a resolution in your packet, I believe on page 46.
Thank you, Attorney Porter. Do we have any questions for Attorney Porter from the board? No? I don't believe we have anyone here from the public speaking on this item specifically. Do we have anyone in the public wishing to speak on item number 10 regarding the county mitigation plan? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Any board discussion on this item?
No, I'll make a motion to adopt the 2023 Kalamazoo County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Support.
A motion by trustee Sikora, support by trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? This is a resolution. Clerk Farmer?
Trustee, where'd I start before? Trustee Chapman?
Aye, yes.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Cole?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
And Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
All right, excellent. At this time, I will note the time at 7:06 PM. We will take a 14-minute break and return at 7:20. Thank you.
Yeah, we've just, right now it's on video mute. Yep.
John?
Too many crickets. I think you scared him.
You said don't start till we have eyes.
She's trying to do what you asked. John's gonna find out soon what it really means to have an office full of women.
All right, good evening. We're going to reconvene our regular meeting and pick up with item number 11, consideration of policy change, sale or disposal of township real or personal property.
Somebody want to give a quick summary? Because it looked pretty straightforward to me.
I can tell you why.
Yep, that'd be good.
Yeah, Dusty, tell us why.
You know, and I'm sorry. I just realized I didn't even put my name on this memo.
You don't put your heading on your paper?
So later in this meeting, we will have a request to sell township property to MDOT. And originally, that request was going to be to deviate from our policy. This goes right along with the rest of our conversations about policy. And rather than deviate from the policy, my request to Attorney Porter was, is there a way that we could summarize this change that would be applicable to other situations? And in my opinion, that's exactly what this is that unless we would follow our policy that says we're going to sell property that we own at fair market value unless it's in furtherance of a public purpose. So that it gives the board the opportunity to make that decision. It also doesn't lock you into that decision if it's for the furtherance of a public purpose. It just gives you that option. And then it's also an amendment to the noticing requirement, because if we're not going to offer this property for sale to the people who live near it, then why would we have that automatic noticing requirement? And that is a summary of the amendments you see before you. Now, this policy will very likely, it could come back to us to review the personal property of tangible value. But that's not what's before us tonight. So that's why we are amending a policy before we're applying the policy.
Thank you for that information. Were you about to say something? Okay. I'd like to I move to approve the amendments to the sale or disposal of township real or personal property policy.
Support.
I have a motion and support, motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sakura. I guess
I would like public comment.
yeah,
Because it's a policy that has to do with the exchange of dollars. So I think that's important.
Public board comment too.
Yes,
You guys can comment
I
on
have a comment.
anything you want. As long
Okay,
as we vote on the
so
motion,
we have
that's
a
all.
motion at this time. I'm going to open up the floor to public comment regarding the changes to this policy regarding the disposal of township real or personal property. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. Any board discussion on this motion?
So I do want to point out that we do have some properties that are bought through first right of refusal, and this policy prior to the change does kind of violate the county concept of if you're going to buy property for a tax value that you not make a profit from it. So that does fall in line with that. But I'm kind of torn between not notifying residents what the property is being sold for use as. If that makes sense. Like, I still think that the owner should be notified, hey, this is what's going to happen to this property.
I shared the question, I highlighted, I had some difficulty reading the paragraph B, the last 4 lines. Before that, I followed, but I had a lot of trouble with the notice of the property's potential use based upon such development plans. That part, the grammar, and I was trying to understand what the meaning was, and I think I was getting tripped up on the grammar. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a comma or a period, so I was very confused on that. And if somebody could help me with that, I would appreciate it.
I think the attempt there was to say, you know, if it's been designed for road improvement, if it's been designed for some other type of, like a substation, you know, and we want to transfer it to the city or something, we shouldn't have to go through the notice process, because if anybody's following our land use plan, our infrastructure plan, our transportation plan, they should be aware that those things are going to happen. In other words, there's other ways of notifying individuals of what's going to happen to property in the future. Part of that is through planning, zoning, and/or multiple development plans that the township has. So that was the goal. Yeah, it's a little wordy, but
I mean, some of our residents don't have access to our plans online or things like that, so they may rely on our notices in the mail.
I mean, if there was a period after infrastructure, everything before infrastructure made sense to me, perfect sense. How much time is saved by not giving notice? Is it a cumbersome process? Would it be a hindrance to the development or handing over, in like this case, to MDOT? I don't know, so I'm just asking as a
No,
question.
so it could be costly, I suppose, would be one thing to take into consideration. This amendment to this policy, though, does not preclude us from noticing. It just does not require us to notice, which is what the original policy as written would have done. So in this case, it could be well within the board's purview to request that we send out notice anyway. Again, the amendments here change the policy so that the board has more decision-making capability, depending on the project at hand.
I mean, and this is again just me, I mean, after infrastructure period, if it said, if this is for development of public infrastructure, notice, no further notice required or something, it's just, I racked my head over that trying to read that paragraph. I just had a lot of, it was just wordy and difficult for me to comprehend it. And it could just be me, it was just, I know what you were saying, but it was all put into one sentence, and it just was a bit much to take in. And I didn't know how much cost public notice would be.
Well, it depends on how many neighboring properties there are. I mean, so, in instance, it's gonna come before us later, there's not many, but, that are within 300 feet. But, I mean, I guess others have more experience than I do as far as how far how many, you know, when we do a notice, like, what's the impact of that? As far as the number of,
I think the biggest impact was the overall delay of the notice and then wait 30 days, and I think that was the concern that I heard when somebody came forward with a proposal was, do we always want to be subject to a notice, wait 30 days, basically hold a township meeting to discuss it, if in fact it's something that is,
already fits in our,
yeah, fits
Master
within
plan.
our master plan
Right,
or
so
something.
to
That-
read it like, if the township board determines that the sale or transfer of real property is consistent with and furthers, 1, the goals and objectives of the township's master plan, 2, its long-term development strategies, and/or 3, the development of needed public infrastructure, Then the notice of the property's potential use based upon such development plans is presumed to be known to the community, and no further notice is required under this section. And so that's to say that we engage the public in all those other methods that, the other activities that produce the township's master plan, which includes long-term development strategies and the needed public infrastructure. Those things are known, we talk about them, we have them in our records, we've engaged the public in that process. And that's where you have the presumption that it's known to the community and no further notice is required. Again, it's not, that doesn't prevent the board from requesting that notice still be sent out.
You could change the last line to say no notice is required prior to sale. Notice of the sale will be provided to those within 300 feet if you just want to provide notice. This has happened sort of after the fact.
That provides clarity.
I mean, maybe that satisfies.
Well, that wouldn't provide clarity, that would be
That'd be a done
adding
deal.
an additional, that would be
Step.
adding an additional step,
Right.
which certainly
I'm just-
is in this board's purview to do.
I'm just throwing that out there for the board members who said, well, the public should know where the property went, what it's going to be used for.
I mean, cost-wise, the reality is, we're not supposed to make a profit on the property, but that wouldn't eliminate us adding, for example, on the property that's coming up, the cost of a mailing.
Well, and you're referring to property that we have purchased in a tax sale.
Correct.
This policy oversees all property owned by the township. This wouldn't be just property that we have obtained through a tax sale. This could also be property that we paid fair market value for. So this is a blanket policy for all real property in the township, owned by the township.
There's a dollar limit limit on this, though?
The publication of notice.
Yeah. Because if it's more than 5,000, you have to do it. You don't get the exemption? Is that, am I not reading that correctly?
Unless it's dispensed with pursuant to paragraph B above.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it does have it, okay. That was the line that you added.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I think if we're buying something at fair market cost, we should be selling it at fair market cost. We shouldn't be not recovering dollars.
This does not prevent the board from making that decision. This allows the board to make that decision.
But doesn't it also open up to, if we're following the policy, it doesn't need board discussion?
Yes, the sale of real property would still have to come to the board.
And the board would have to determine whether or not it met the goals and objectives of the township's master plan, et cetera, before it would fall into this exception.
I mean, so
So it
then,
would have to come to the board, and the board would have to determine who you're selling it to, how much you're selling it for, and whether or not you did.
I mean, you just don't want me selling Township Hall, do you? Without letting you know?
How much can you get for?
Actually, you know what? I wish, go ahead.
I mean, it doesn't, so I guess it would be, I guess I didn't read this way. I mean, I would think that any sale or purchase of property would have to come before the board.
Oh, it does.
Yes, this doesn't change that.
That doesn't change that.
In my opinion, this policy tied the hands of the board, and we could not make a decision outside of this policy. These amendments, the purpose of them is only so that this board can make the decision. You don't have to, you can still sell the property at whatever amount you want, right? That's a board decision. This allows that to be a board decision.
You could still require the notice.
We can still require the notice, but we don't have to do the notice with this amendment if that's something that makes sense. And I think it's because there's no way we can possibly, sometimes we try to write policy that covers every single situation. And when we start mentioning every single situation, what it really does is tie our hands when we don't know. Every time we do that, something new comes before us that we couldn't, that we couldn't have predicted. And in this case, this allows the board to, this is our policy, it can say whatever we want it to say. But as it was written before, we would have to sell MDOT that small piece of property at fair market value. And the Public Works Director was going to request that we not do that. And so with this change in policy, we can make that decision. Otherwise, we would have been breaking our policy. And as I've expressed before, and as we all expressed earlier tonight, we would like to be able to follow our policies, and our policies should reflect what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And like I said, there's properties that we shouldn't be making profit on that are purchased from the county for first right. And so I kind of agree with part of this change, and don't agree with part of this change. I think we should be required to notify our neighboring residents.
And that's,
I think it should be a requirement.
that's the only part, I have it on my sheet bolded here, that's the only part I had a problem with, is I don't know, and I'm still newer, I don't know how much is involved in that notification, if it would be harmful to a project to provide that notification. I just don't know that, and
It could be, and if you require it, then it won't matter if it's harmful or not, we have to do it. In this case, the board can make the decision. If we don't have this amendment, the board does not get to make that decision, and it doesn't matter if it affects the project. If we're going to follow our policy. I mean, again, the board could decide if we go, oh, well, it would be detrimental if we have to wait 30 days to notice. And if the board decides that, we would have to be making a decision to break our own policy. This makes it so you don't have to do that.
But and again, here's where I'm just not understanding, is there a situation, and perhaps you could give me, I just need help with this, is a 30-day delay because of notification, is there a situation where something would be that expedient, that absolutely critical at that exact moment that we couldn't wait 30 days?
If I
That's
tell
what I
you,
don't.
if I tell you no, I will be proven wrong tomorrow.
Good point. That happens.
I mean, it happens to me all the time. I say a lot of really confident things, and I get proven wrong because we can't think of every situation.
I just like to err on the side of transparency, and that's the part I just don't know
Well, I
what I
think
don't
that
know.
the question would be of the board, if we bring to discussion the sale of a property, the question should be, are we noticing the public? It doesn't preclude us from noticing the public. I mean, the board can still say, move forward with the sale, but we want you to notice. I mean, am I wrong on that?
No, you're absolutely correct, but the board also has to look at that situation and go, does this even follow our master plan where we engaged our community and made decisions about the future of the township? And if it didn't do that, this wouldn't even apply anyway. You would have to follow the rest of the policy. So, right, like you would, this only applies if you've engaged the public and this is a known public, furtherance of the public good.
I don't know.
And you can still notice them after that even.
Just the presumed to be known to the public.
Yeah. And I can't think of an instance where we'd need to unload property within 30 days.
I can't
just
either.
can't.
I mean, I don't know.
But
I
you
have
just-
no idea.
Tomorrow, or if it's me at
Well,
midnight, I'll.
I mean, I don't have an example off the top of my head, but I can share this with you is, and, you know, we're gonna talk about this this potential sale to MDOT later, but every time you kick the can down to the next board meeting or the next 30 days, you know, that, in my mind, always leaves opportunity for error, things to get left behind. So I guess I would rather, I mean, if this just allows flexibility, which is, I think, what Dusty's trying to say, is that if we're talking about a parcel that we're gonna sell, you know, it's in our master plan to be, you know, ultimately a pathway for sewer. And if that's known, and it's laid out, and it's been a public document that's been discussed, and, I mean, I don't see what the harm is in providing.
I mean,
And are we talking about, we want to add language that limits the board's decision And ultimately, really limiting future boards with policy that's in place when they get here. I mean, the other side of that, all I'm proposing is that we just leave it up to the board.
It's just, again, the presumption part, it just, by not providing notice, in my opinion, it provides a potential for the public to think, not that we are doing something inappropriate, but it provides the potential for them to think of an inappropriateness, that we are not being as transparent as we should be. Because I don't, again, I'm racking my brain, I'm trying to think of a circumstance where not providing a notice would, 30-day notice, where it would be detrimental. And I can't, but I can think, if that wording's there, there could be, if we don't provide notice, and we as a board may choose to, but if our future boards didn't, it could provide the appearance of inappropriate decisions. And that's where I'm just trying to, it's thinking how it could be perceived if,
Well, okay, inappropriate decisions, though,
that's not the right word.
No,
don't
but
use that word.
I think I see what you're getting at. And I will say, I'm the first person to say that, I do a lot of, the term that I want to use is, I don't think is appropriate. I will take a voter along every step of the way to make sure that I am facilitating voting for that voter. I will dedicate a lot of time to doing that, and that's on top of all the other ways in which voters themselves have determined, and the state has determined, are multiple ways in which people can vote. And I will still walk them through that every single time to facilitate voting. And in the same way, when we talk about future land use in this township, we are currently spending hundreds of thousands of dollars engaging our township residents to provide input in the master planning process. And that's not the only time that we do that. I mean, we had the Go Green Oshtemo, where we are, begging folks to participate and finding ways to engage them for periodic updates to that master plan. And we update that master plan and review it every 5 years. And we spend a lot of money and staff time and elected officials' time in ensuring that we are walking folks along with what the future land use is in this township. And the only time this amendment would apply to a sale of property is if we can point back and say, yes, it's a part of this master planning process where we have engaged in multiple ways. It's a multifaceted approach, our public. So I don't think that at any point in any of our decision-making, I or anyone else on any board I've sat on since 2012 has done anything secretively. If anything, we've done it very publicly, and that has also backfired at times. But, I mean, I'm not saying that I want to not do that. I'm saying, again, this is just the opportunity for the board to make that decision.
Is what makes you question this, that you would like to see is presumed to be known to the community and no further notice is required under this section?
Yeah, it's just after the word infrastructure that I have a problem. It's just that rest of the part, because, yes, I know we do everything to reach out to the public. We are currently on the internet. We have a Zoom room open or another branded thing. We do that, but that doesn't mean Joe Bob, who lives next to this property, understands that or knows it. And I think that those people, providing a notice to them is a small thing that may prevent further problems down the road.
So what would you like to see after the word infrastructure?
That no further notice is required under this section.
That is what it says? And that's what he has a problem with?
No, that's not what it says after infrastructure. It says the notice of the property's potential use, blah, 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 and then it says, and no further notice is required. So just get rid of the part of the property's potential use based on such development plans is presumed to be known to the community. That part, it's very specific. How do you, right?
I'm not getting the impression that that's the problem here.
I think
It's the no further notice is,
the people, it's presumed that people know what we're doing and we're not telling them what we're doing.
Well, even if we take that presumption out,
The
the no
action.
further notice is required is the hangup that I'm hearing.
I think it's the action, not the words.
How
What
about
do you
no
guys want,
further-
what would you like it to say?
How about no further notice is required and will be decided by the board at the time?
Writing on the spot is not a specialty of mine, but I would recommend at least a period after the word infrastructure.
Then that would not be a full sentence. So let me say that again. If the township board determines that the sale or transfer of real property is consistent with and furthers the, 1, goals and objectives of the township's master plan, 2, its long-term development strategies, and/or 3, the development of needed public infrastructure, then we have to have the rest of that sentence.
Right.
You do have to have something.
That's not a
Yeah,
sentence.
absolutely.
So the purpose here is that it would say no further notice is required under this section, but my understanding is that no further notice being required is the hangup. Is that the hangup that I'm hearing?
Yes, I think
My,
that's what
my,
I'm hearing.
yes, there was two parts, the wordiness, that was first, I just needed help
And we
comprehending
can
that.
strike
you
the
did that.
wordiness, yeah.
And you pointing it out helped with that, but the notice is the other part.
So what is the proposed wording?
I think the board wants to require, if I'm hearing this
Require
correct.
notice.
The board wants to, if I'm hearing the discussion, at least some members of this body want to require that neighboring properties within 300 feet be noticed.
Can I ask a question here? Before or after the sale or
Before.
transfer? Before, okay, that's just clarification, because you could notify them after, but
Okay, so if we took out every amendment under item B, or paragraph B rather, then the only change to this document is that,
The selling price, I think.
is the selling price. Everything else would remain the same. So
well, no, you'd have to.
that doesn't make any sense if you remove the item from paragraph B.
Correct, you'd have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, I mean, so the only amendment that we would be considering would be the unless in furtherance of a public purpose. Up in, the
General
very
purpose.
first general purpose paragraph. I'm hearing that from two people, and this is a
You're
seven.
hearing what from two people? I'm not hung up on anything. I've got a motion out there that's been going for 20 minutes with support, so
That we
I'm not
have,
hung up.
that we have discussion over the price or what it costs or whatever, but that we require that people be noticed, or we not require that people be noticed.
So, within our own board policy, there is a motion and support on the table. And unless someone is requesting an amendment to that motion, then we
call the question.
would call the question.
Wow, that was a circle.
It's still good discussion.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it just, woo, all the way around. I believe we have a motion by trustee Ford and support by
Sikora.
trustee Sikora. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye. Opposed.
So motion carries 5-2. Thank you. But it makes me think internally, we should be making sure that when we bring a sale of the property to the board, that we,
Clearly ask the board, do you want this to be noticed before the sale?
Correct.
Yes, that's a good point.
so we can put that in a procedure of some sort. Okay, next, we have item 12, first reading, zoning text amendments to Article 50, Schedule of Regulations, Section 50.60C, setback provisions, business and industrial districts.
This policy was initially proposed due in part to our astute engineer helping us learn how to build roads in our community. And we were going to be building roads, especially in light of the adoption of our transportation and mobility plan. This section's primarily inserted in here, C3, to make sure that if you have a property that's basically sandwiched between two parallel roads, that you give some relief for the secondary road, so that we don't get into an argument that we're basically creating a confiscatory, a taking. And that's why this proposed amendment went to the Planning Commission, was approved by the Planning Commission, and the recommendation is to adopt the text as submitted for first reading and second reading.
Thanks, Attorney Porter. Before I move forward, any questions for Attorney Porter? Any public comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, we'll close the public comment. Trustee Ford, I know you're on Planning Commission. Anything you want to add about this item?
No, we all heard Jim's same summary and immediately voted unanimously to approve it.
Man, a few words.
Any other discussion on
Some
item
stuff's
12?
just straightforward, I guess.
Okay, if there's no other board discussion,
I'll make the motion to approve for first reading the zoning text amendments to Article 50, Schedule of Regulations, Section 50.60C, setback provisions, business and industrial districts. And to set for second reading at whatever. Oh, 23rd, thank you, April 23rd.
April 23rd.
Support.
Motion by trustee Sikora, support by treasurer Bushka. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have item number 13. Oh, sorry, Colton. First reading, we have zoning text amendments to Article 55, signs and billboards.
This was a challenge for the Planning Commission. It's a very lengthy zoning amendment, if you will. It's a rewrite of all of Section 55 of our signs and billboards ordinance. Initially, my concern was a Supreme Court decision that took place in 2016, and without casting aspersions on anybody, I had asked zoning administrators along the way to please bring this forward for amendment to make sure that we came into compliance with the Supreme Court regulations that say your signs, especially the ones that are like temporary directional signs, cannot be regulated based on the content of the sign. It's a First Amendment violation. And I want to give a shout out to Iris, even though she's no longer here. When I came forward with what I would say were my very meager changes, she said, this ordinance is really needs a lot of work. So the bulk of it, I would say 99% of this, is simply Iris's work of trying to make it more readable, more usable for business people in the community, and she put a lot of time into it. I don't know that I can even answer all the questions of how she reworked this ordinance. It was extensive. But I can tell you that I really appreciate everything that she did. From a legal perspective, I believe that this ordinance is basically a much cleaner, simpler ordinance, and I believe it addresses the whole overall concern of content neutrality when it comes to our sign ordinance. And so I present it to you again with the tip of the hat to Iris. Your Planning Commission went through it, reviewed it, and they're recommending that it be accepted for first reading and set for second reading.
I think it's fun every time you have an opportunity to promote freedom of speech and also to comply with constitutional law. This is a great opportunity for us to do that.
It is.
Thanks, Jim.
This is the third time signs ordinance has been before me.
Just the third time?
I
feel
really-
like it's more.
I really hope this is the one.
Before we
We
move-
thought we did so
Clarence,
good
tell
on
us.
the other ones.
Before we move forward, are there any questions for Attorney Porter regarding this item?
Yeah, a couple quick questions. So the concept of snipe signs, I hear that term a lot.
Right.
Where would I find that in here, or how do people
Basically, a
know
snipe
what to
sign
look
is
for?
considered an advertisement sign. It's not a
Advertising.
permitted sign.
So it's not permitted at all?
It's not permitted. We have one of our ordinance enforcement officers who's out, and the other ordinance enforcement officer we have is literally, I think,
Yeah.
working himself to death, trying to keep up with everything. So we have not possibly been as good as we have in the past in collecting those, but you're not allowed to advertise just on any corner and put up, Acme Construction. Those are illegal signs. They're just not permitted.
How about,
So, but can I say that we've been policing that a lot? Probably not, because of just staffing right at this point.
yeah, it's always that issue. What about the signs, so there were like real estate signs were allowed, don't have to be removed?
Yeah, real estate
But-
signs are permitted, and then even real estate directional signs under the temporary directional signs are permitted on a limited basis. But when I say real estate, any directional sign, if you have an event or a sale or something, you're limited, I believe, to like 4 directional signs on the main 4 corners for a limited amount of time under the ordinance. Part of the reason we were out of compliance is we tried to help our agricultural industry.
That was my next
So-
question.
And we created this ordinance that said, well, if you're advertising the sale of produce or something, then you can put your signs out. But we didn't want all of these other signs. Well, that violates the Supreme Court's ruling that came down in 2016. And so now the compromise was to limit these temporary directional signs, to 4, to a limited amount of time, and hopefully not, we don't want to clutter up our corners. We don't want to necessarily make our community look like a Burma Shave commercial, for those of you that
Yeah,
might
we're old
actually know
enough
what
to
that
know
is.
You got me on that one.
You don't know what a Burma Shave?
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, look it up, yeah.
That's back when you had a sign after a sign after a sign after a sign. You had to read like 10 or 12 signs in a row to determine what the advertisement was. So, again, your planner, I thought, came up with a very good solution, working with me to allow directional signs on a limited basis, but hopefully not do it in a way that would be detrimental to your community.
So are the signs that are the agriculture ones, like, asparagus down the street, kind of thing, are those gone now? or
It's
are
got to
they-
be a directional sign, like,
Turn left.
Asparagus north.
Cider
Yeah,
mill.
cider mill, 2 miles, or, it's not about just advertising a product, it's got to be primarily directional, and so as long as it includes a directional aspect to it, then it would be permitted.
For an unlimited amount of time?
No.
Okay. No, I was thinking of like Verhages, or something like where.
That's what I was
it's,
thinking
you
too,
know,
yeah.
Blueberries,
very
all the
helpful.
produce, and it's a sign that is giving a direction.
And they do switch those up because it'll be strawberries and
Yeah.
asparagus during certain times
Yeah,
of the year.
I was afraid that we
corn,
were,
yeah.
we had gotten into this where we were
No.
giving this option that you could do these and put these out there,
You
and then
can.
we're saying now you can't do them, and I wanted to make sure I
Temporary
understood.
off-premises directional signs. 4, not more than 1 sign at 4 separate intersections within the township. Maximum 4 square feet, very small. Height, maximum 4 feet, make sure that it doesn't interfere. Not more than 14 days from the date of erection. So if you put up a sign that's like, a church could be having a special, or the library could be having a special. They could put up a directional sign. Or you're selling asparagus, that sign could be up for 14 days, that comes down. When apples are on sale, you put up another sign, that could be there for 14 days. So it's fairly limited.
We do
and-
not police them, though. There's.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
that's a whole different
I
issue,
mean,
yeah.
and
Enforcement
to
is a
Jim's
whole different issue.
point, our ordinance enforcement department would be the one that would sort of be the check and balance on those signs. But in the list of priorities that ordinance enforcement is working on, I think there's other stuff besides just going out and pulling corner signs. But this at least gives them something to follow.
But this would not, this would not allow carte blanche of just
Right.
directional signs everywhere,
Oh, right, right.
365 days a year. No, they're limited, and if somebody abused it, then there's language in the ordinance that our ordinance enforcement officer could go out and say, you can't have a sign that says, Smith's Farm out on this road, 365. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to, it's direction, and it's limited in nature.
But the strawberries, asparagus, but that's only for 14 days.
Right.
So, these seasons are sometimes longer than 14 days. Do they
Take
take
it
them
off
up
for
and
a
then
day?
put them 3 feet over? All right. No, I'm trying to make sure that we
I-
encourage
I
them.
would
because that was
argue
the
that
idea of
if they're
encouraging
selling,
business.
like during cider, when
Yeah,
cider
cider,
first
yeah.
starts, a couple of weeks, the signs could be up. After that, they should be gone.
Yeah.
Apples, when those go, are for sale, or, some other fruit, like strawberries,
Mm-hmm.
they would be up for a couple of weeks, and then they should be gone. So again, we're trying to strike a balance,
Sure.
and hopefully the community will work with us, I think, for the most part, but it's not just open season on our four corners.
There's a lot out there right now that aren't directional, that aren't related to products in the township.
Right.
And it actually goes to, that is proof that, when we were fully staffed in our ordinance enforcement department,
We did
they
pick
did a
those-
very good job
did.
in keeping
going
those corners
plucking those,
clean, and
yeah.
it's just impossible because, the owners of those signs are relentless.
And then if you dig back into the definition in this section, you can't put a sign in our township that says, Joe's apple orchard, 2 miles. This is for directional signs for businesses in the township and events.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can't say car show 10 miles down the road, no.
I still have a really hard time understanding though how we can't use the content of a sign to make an ordinance, but like we're still making an ordinance using the content of the sign.
No, because, and the court answered that, I could give you like a 12-page
I know,
analysis of that. The court basically said, while there may be content in the sign, what's the primary purpose of the sign? If it's to give direction, then
If
it's
it's to be for
content.
real estate, if it's going to be political, okay.
Yeah, political, that's
Don't touch.
hands
whole
off,
different-
I'm sorry, that's,
It's a little different.
yeah.
Well, we've always been hands-off in this township.
And we
Well,
should be.
Let me announce that to everybody. Bring your political signs.
Yeah.
If somebody's removing them, it's not us. It's either the
It
road
isn't.
commission, which it still isn't often, it's MDOT.
MDOT.
MDOT will remove
MDOT
them in a
will remove
heartbeat.
them in the right of way.
We've actually been blamed multiple times for some signs being
Yeah.
removed that were MDOT. And in case anybody wants to know in the future, just go pick them up from their facility. That's where they are.
They are there. They'll give
not
back-
us.
They'll give them back to you.
You can pick up other people's signs while you're there.
Right. Go put them back out.
It's a whole bin.
Yep.
All right, any other questions for Attorney Porter on this? Okay, at this time, I'll open up public comment. Are there anyone here in the public wishing to make comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. We can move to board deliberation action.
I would love to be the one to make this motion, and this will be the last sign ordinance we'll ever have to do.
Until next week.
Motion by Clerk Farmer.
Yes,
and a
I move
trustee
to approve
by-
the first reading and set for second reading, the zoning text amendments to Article 55, signs and billboards for, set for second reading for April 23rd.
Second.
So fast.
I just supported it.
What?
She already supported
She
it.
already supported it.
How'd you support it before it was motion?
She said I'd make the motion, I want support.
Interesting. Interesting play.
So anyway, I would like to make a comment though.
Sure, any conversation on the motion?
Yeah, yes, please.
Trustee Sikora.
So this is always perplexing me, this whole political thing, and Attorney Porter, God bless his soul, on numerous occasions over the many years, we've discussed this issue. And, it's still perplexing to me, and I did read the Supreme Court ruling and everything else too, just more recently. And I still find it perplexing because the city of Kalamazoo has an ordinance that doesn't allow political signs 30 days, more than 30 days, and you have to remove them 30 days after.
And my answer to
No,
that would be.
I know, let me make my comment. And it was interesting because when I happened to be working election, I was working with the clerk in Portage, and I asked the same question. I said, do you have a sign ordinance? What do you do about political signs? And like, oh, well, we're just updating ours, we don't allow them, 30 days or whatever. And she says, we're updating it because now with early voting, there's an extra 9 days, and so we're adding on extra days ahead of it. And I said, well, how do you get away with it? And she said, well, that's what our board has decided to do. And it just, I just keep thinking that, well, if these other entities are able to do that without somebody, filing a lawsuit against them, or maybe they're just waiting for it and just kind of like pushing it, depending on whether somebody's going to do it. But it just seems like we should be able to do something. And I respect Jim's interpretation and the Supreme Court ruling and everything. It's just disappointing to me that we can't have more control over our local. I'm not talking about something in your front yard. I'm only talking about right away, in the front along the road. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, that it's interesting that, we're kind of keeping up to date with, well, from whenever the Supreme Court ruling was, but many other places are just like, don't care.
I'm surprised that other communities have not been challenged, because the last time I checked, the First Amendment still says exactly what it says.
Yeah.
No law. No law. And if I want to put a sign out in my front yard that says, screw, and you put whatever name of the politician you don't like, I don't think you can tell me I have to take that sign down.
Well, they did, and we didn't, so.
No, and
Well, and I
obviously, you and I do agree on that in the sense of on your front yard or whatever, that's fine.
Right.
I'm just only talking about in the public right away.
We're talking about
Yeah.
right
Well,
away.
they aren't supposed to be in public right away anyway.
Well, right, they're already not, we don't allow them, but also we have to balance what we are capable of enforcing. And so far, we've only approved a budget for 1.5 ordinance enforcement officers. And if we want to have a budget like the city of Kalamazoo does, where they send folks out the night before the election to take down signs that are in the public right of way. That's been very common for years.
That's kind of helpful.
We could
because
do
then you
it,
don't
but
have to
my
pick them up
gosh.
yourself.
Yeah. That's a lot of manpower put toward what?
Any other discussion on this motion?
We look forward to seeing the next revision, which will mention LED lights, because they're not
There's
mentioned.
no other discussion.
That's a different situation.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, consideration of tentative preliminary plan, Westridge Site condominium. Condominium.
Like aluminum.
Uh-huh.
Aluminum.
At this time, I'd like to welcome our zoning administrator, Colton, and he will be presenting this item for us.
Thank you, Sherry. The applicant is requesting step one, tentative preliminary plan approval for a 41-unit site condominium project located at 7110 West Main Street. Approximate 20-acre site is located on the north side of West Main Street between 7th Street and North 8th Street. The site in question is outlined in light blue on the map on the right-hand side of your screen. When reviewing an application for a site condominium development request, the project will need to conform to the township subdivision, site condominium, and land division ordinance of Article 290. Site condominium projects developing under Article 290 require review and approval by the township board. Article 290 includes requirements on arrangement, size, and shape of building sites, design of streets and pedestrian pathways, stormwater, provisions related to natural features, external factors such as non-motorized and road connections, along with other general site elements. The first thing we'll look at are the general zoning and configuration of the parent parcel.
Snapshot of the proposed site plan is shown on the right-hand side of your screen. The subject site is zoned R2 Residence District. Single-family site condominium developments are considered an allowable use within the R2 district. The property abuts single-family homes to the north, west, and south, along with commercial development to the immediate east. As for individual building sites, all minimum frontage, area, and setback requirements have been met. As for access and circulation, the developer is proposing a street network that's planned to be private. Driveway access on West Main Street is proposed in the southwest corner of the development. Ridgetop Circle and Vertex Circle are proposed to terminate at the development's north end in cul-de-sacs and are proposed to be temporary turnarounds. Such cul-de-sacs are designed as such as they are meant to facilitate future interconnection should the 10-acre property adjacent to the north ever be subdivided or condominiumized. With respects to non-motorized facilities, 5-foot wide concrete sidewalks are proposed on each side of the road throughout the development, along with a 10-foot wide HMA path along the subject property frontage along the north side of West Main Street. Both public water and sewer are being proposed. All existing and proposed easements are shown on the site plan. Stormwater management is proposed and also satisfies ordinance requirements. In terms of lighting, the developer is proposing street lighting throughout the condominium project. Locations of pole-mounted lights are shown on the site plan. The applicant also provided a natural features preservation plan identifying trees that will be preserved versus trees that will be removed. The trees identified for removal are in areas where key infrastructure or improvements such as roadways, driveways, or dwelling units are planned to be implemented. Roughly 28% of trees 8 inches or greater in diameter will be preserved, exceeding minimum code requirements. More than 15% of the project site is set aside as designated open space. And a landscaping plan has been provided to the township as part of the submission and does satisfy ordinance requirements. And lastly, both the fire department and engineering have had a chance to review the proposal and are satisfied with the overall design for step 1 approval. Recommendation, planning department staff and the planning commission recommend the township board approve the step 1 tentative preliminary plan for a 41-unit site condominium development located at 7110 West Main Street with the conditions provided in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Colton. Before Colton steps away from the podium, are there any questions? I guess I have one question, not so much about the project in particular, but the process. Why, if, so the board will approve this step 1 tentative preliminary plan and then it goes back to staff for completion, then does it go back to the planning commission?
No.
I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but it keeps coming here.
For steps 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay, it comes
Yep.
back here. Okay, okay.
Here's the reason for that. We have. Sorry. Very good question. Why is it here? The straightforward answer to that is subdivisions and condominium developments are regulated by state statute,
Okay,
and therefore you've set it up in accordance with state law to have it reviewed by the planning commission, so you don't have to spend all the, the details. So it comes here hopefully in good shape
Right.
for step 1, and then it comes back for step 2 and step 3 here
okay.
pursuant to state law.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that. Because I was like, wow, if we approve step 1 and it kicks back to planning commission, then they gotta go through planning commission, then wait. So I was like, so from here on out, this project will come directly to the board?
Yep.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. That was my question.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Colton? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to make comment regarding this project?
Sorry, the applicant and the property owner is also here in attendance as well. I don't know if you'd like to hear comments from them in addition to public comment.
If they'd like to come forward and address the board, I think that'd be great.
I'm not a very eloquent speaker, so I'll.
Well, you've watched us for like 2 hours.
Nor am I.
You can please introduce yourself and tell us, I don't know, are you related to the project itself? Or are
Yes,
you here as a member of the public speaking?
Good evening, my name is John Lovely. I am here with Green Development Ventures LLC, also Allen Edwin Homes. I just wanted to say thank you to staff for all the time they spent on this. I thank the Planning Commission for their positive recommendation. We've been working on this project in a number of different iterations since the summer of 2023, so it's been a long process, but we think we've got it down, and we think we've got a really good project. We're very excited about it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a while since we had a project like this in front of us, so let me just go to the most important question. Are the streetlights in the development going to be LED lights?
Thanks, Dusty.
We will comply with the ordinance. I anticipate that they will be LEDs based on the other streetlights that we do in other communities. They're typically a consumer's energy light pole. So we'll get the power ran for all the units, and at that same time, they will set the light poles. So yeah, I anticipate they'll be LED consistent with our.
Right, so if these are consumers' energy, the new ones that go in are
Are
LEDs,
LED.
right?
That's
That's correct? Okay.
I don't know how that happened with the one off of 9th Street.
I know, it was a really weird,
It was a weird one. Yeah,
don't worry, those kids with those slingshots were out
that's right,
there.
they fixed it.
All right, so you have step one approval, so what's next for your team?
So, as I've mentioned, we have been working on this for quite some time.
Let me repeat, or let me retract that. You're asking for step one approval. You
Correct.
don't have it yet.
Correct.
Step
Yeah,
one-
so-
You're here
Yeah.
requesting step one approval.
So if we are granted the step one approval by the township board tonight, we've made a lot of progress on our engineering plans based on some of the comments that have come through on the step one. So we put a lot of work into it, and we feel that in the next month or two, we would be able to make a submittal for the step two. We go through the staff review process and hopefully be back to you guys within a few months. So that's our goal. Like I said, we're very excited about this project. We do have limited time on our purchase agreement, so that's why we're trying to ramp this process up as we move through this step. So, yeah.
So if all things go as planned, when would you hope to turn dirt?
Ideally, we would be in a position to start clearing and mass grading sometime this fall.
Okay.
And then we would probably begin some of the infrastructure such as sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer. If we don't have a tough winter, we might be able to do some of that throughout the winter. It could be possible that this shifts to a spring of '25 construction as well. So it kind of depends on how this process goes. We have to get permits from Eagle and other entities as well. So that can be time consuming as well.
Right, I understand that. Does this board have any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do. How is this set up to be, connected to any future development? Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So the biggest key here is that we've stubbed both of our main roadways that are going to be private, but we have stubbed them with those temporary cul-de-sacs to the north property line. So if something in the future comes directly north, that could very easily be continued to the north. And as a matter of fact, those cul-de-sacs would go away and it would just be a straight-through street. Also, there had been discussions about the township desiring to do something directly across 8th Street, an extension of 8th Street on the north side of West Main. We understood that request. It was very hard for us to accommodate that because it requires the participation of another property owner, our property owner directly to our east. But we said that we would provide a 33-foot easement along our east property line and then turning to connect to our future right-of-way. So we will include that in our master deed, and if that does ever happen, it can be accommodated with this site condominium. And it would probably also include the closure of the current currently proposed access location, which has the support of MDOT and all of that at this moment. But those are the ways in which that we've been working on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, is there anyone here in the public wishing to make comment regarding this project? Going, gone. Thumbs up, we have a thumbs up, that's great. All right, I'll close public comment and move into board discussion.
Real quick, like from the planning commission, it was, I believe it was all unanimous, it was very straightforward. Little background that the applicant had bought this with some intentions to develop it and do a market out front. Hasn't worked, he's had a hard time trying to sell it, finally got a buyer. And now we've got a buyer that's gonna help out this guy and also help us with one of our goals of providing housing in the township, in the county. So, it's a good opportunity. The fact that they're interested in, reworking the entrance, if we are to extend 8th Street in the future is a huge plus. Yeah, and then the only other comment I would add about that is, I believe the gentleman's here tonight, he owns the property to the east, and was a little bit perplexed about this extension of 8th Street being discussed, and I'd just say that we gotta figure out a better way to be able to talk about these things without freaking people out, and maybe there is some way to communicate with them ahead of us starting to talk about these plans that we may or may not have. Just a thought for the group here, but in general, this was well supported by the planning commission.
I guess, are we talking about particularly, and it wasn't at township board meeting, it was it planning commission that property owner spoke at?
I believe so, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, we've discussed the idea of a future extension of 8th Street, and that's a natural and normal thing for a board to do when they're thinking about the future. However, when we do that, we should take into consideration the effect those words might have on people whose properties may be affected.
And I'm going to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Public Works had that conversation ahead of that planning committee. Am I correct about that?
I have no idea. I'm not trying to make it about that one thing. I'm just saying, in general, we might want to think about this in the future. It's really not related to tonight's conversation. So it was more of a comment. I'm
Okay.
not asking for feedback on that.
Okay, I appreciate.
I guess I was
You're
just
gonna
wanting to make a
get my
comment. I'm not asking for
Whether you want it or not. Mr.
You're about to learn what it's like too.
You're gonna churn the dirt of you in a minute.
Duly noted, Mr. Ford.
Yeah, I didn't mean that rudely. I meant,
I would make a quick comment. I really appreciate whoever did the minutes for the meeting. I read them, they'd be included in the packet. They're very well done. I really got the flavor of everything that was discussed and brought up, including the 8th Street thing. I thought whoever was doing the minutes did a very fine job.
almost like a transcriptionist.
Yeah.
Is that Leanna?
I was gonna
She
say,
did a good
that
job.
was Leanna, yeah.
So that, Leanna, our other zoning administrator, was Leanna and Colton and another staff person in the office, Ann, have been, we had the retirement of our, what's that word?
Transcriptionist. Stenographer.
Transcriptionist, right. And so all three of them picked up
Stenographer.
and to do that. But so I'm glad you like these ones, and our new transcriptionist starts tomorrow. So hopefully you'll like them just as well. So,
Are we ready for a motion?
unless there's other discussion.
I'm asking, yeah, okay.
Any other discussion? Okay.
Oh, shoot, what's the motion? I'm not ready.
It's on page
We haven't had a
116.
meeting that went on long in a while.
It's on page
I
116.
move to approve the tentative preliminary plan for the Westridge Site condominium development as presented.
Support.
A motion by trustee Ford and a support by treasurer Bushka. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll look forward to working with you.
We have got to stop laughing in the middle. It's mostly me.
Next, we'll move to item 15, which is consideration of a sale of property for MDOT US 131 Business Loop Project. And our Public Works Director, Anna Horner, will be presenting this topic.
Yeah, maybe it's well known by the board that this sparks a change in our sale of property policy. But essentially, the property was purchased kind of with the foresight of knowing this business loop extension was coming. And because that was the intent behind the purchase, I am recommending that we basically ask for the amount of money we've put towards it in reimbursement from MDOT. They did an appraisal because that is required by federal highway, and they have provided that to the township, and their good faith offer was going to be for $16,500, and so the difference is going to have to be considered a donation by the township towards the project, but
Nothing
I think-
better, I'm sorry, go ahead.
there was some thought that if we had to get a grant, this would also be part of our match, and that didn't occur. All the money was earmarked by our representatives, and so this is just exchanging the land. I will say in the request for sale or disposal of Oshtemo Township property form, I also included on the second page that additional terms for the purchase is that MDOT is going to designate the land as a scenic strip, which means that in the future, it will not be able to be developed, nor will it be able to have billboards on it.
It's just a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I thought that was a nice offer from them to do that for us, and I guess I just want to make sure the board is aware that we are selling the entire parcel to them, not just the portion needed for the improvements, so we will no longer have any part of ownership in this parcel.
Are there other parcels adjacent to ours that are being sold or taken as a part of this?
Easements are being granted and
Okay.
offered, yes.
Okay. Very cool. I think this is great. We had the foresight to acquire this random strip of land for this exact project, and now here we are, putting that random strip of land towards this project. This is great.
It's like we know what we're doing.
It's fantastic. I like it. I'm excited to get downtown without going down West Main.
So I have a quick question. Are they required to pay a good faith amount since we're not supposed to be making any profit on a?
They are required to do an appraisal if they were dealing with anybody other than the governmental body, that would probably
Like-
be the transfer price, but in our case, we can.
Yeah, don't think about this topic too long, because you're gonna start realizing that we bought this land with your tax dollars, we're selling it to somebody that's buying it with your tax dollars, and then we're gonna use tax, it's all very confusing.
Yeah, but, so I guess my question is, should we just say, no, send us the 39 or 4,000 even, or?
Yeah, no, that's what we're,
Yeah.
Like, don't send us 16, send us 4.
Correct.
that's correct, that's
Okay.
what's
Send us
happening.
what we
Okay, I feel better
have in
about that.
it.
Can we tell them to not send us 8 cents? Just asking.
Or round up.
It makes the books really messy.
We only deal with integers here.
I thought, Claire, your question was going to be, where does this money go to? So this was purchased with the road millage, I believe, so it will go back into the road fund, the revenue for the
I'll do
sale.
research on that. Thank you. I do believe you.
Alrighty.
I will guarantee you that I'm not sure anyone in the township knows, or is more closely to the funds that she has available to do her projects than the Public
Yep.
Works Director. Is there any other discussion on this item? Questions?
I move to authorize the township supervisor to execute sale of parcel 05-01-180-005.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by treasurer Bushka. However, before moving forward, I'd like to open this item up for public comment. Is there anyone here in the public wishing to make comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. We have a motion and support. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have item 16, discussion of employee handbook amendments, section 4.1 and section 5.3. Sarah, are you prepared? Yeah. We have our HR Director, Sarah Feaster, here to, this is a discussion.
You should have worn jeans.
I know, right?
There's two parts to this, actually, so, shall we take 4.1 first?
Yes. All right. Good evening. There are two handbook revisions in front of you for discussion tonight. The first one is regarding the election staff. This is full-time election staff that we have here that work elections in the clerk's office. We would like to revise the handbook to pay them overtime for any hours worked over 8 hours on an election day. Just a little bit of background on this. We ran into a situation recently where there was a holiday that fell in an election week. And per the FLSA, you have to physically work over 40 hours in order to receive overtime pay. So due to this holiday being an election week, that disqualified them for the overtime pay on the election day, when they were working 14, 15, 16-hour days. 20-hour days.
Hold on, though. Like, the Fair Labor Standard Act, it precludes them from earning overtime, or?
It doesn't, it doesn't preclude them. It says we
Okay.
don't, we as
The
a,
employer is not
Yes.
required
Yes.
to be normal.
exactly, I'm sorry that I misspoke that, yes. The FLSA, it says you don't have to pay overtime over 40. We as the policy of the township is that we don't pay over that. So it doesn't preclude us from paying overtime, but that's
our
not our,
policy does.
yes, that's not our process.
Right.
So for these election workers, specifically for them working those increased hours on those election days, we wanted to just change it for on those election days, if they work anything over 8 hours is overtime, regardless if the FLSA, regardless if they receive overtime or not. Yes. So that's the first amendment. And the second amendment is regarding the dress code. The HR board work group has had much conversation around this policy of changing the dress code to allow jeans in the workplace. And we were unable to reach a consensus, so we wanted to bring this to the board to collect your thoughts.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to, I think we should hold a public vote, put it on the ballot.
And it should be a special election, completely
So-
separate
Special
from
election,
everything.
just on this one topic.
Before you weigh in and provide your feedback, I did want to add that SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resources Management, they, in their definition of business casual dress, which is what our handbook says, business casual, it does include neat jeans. Sure. And also, they're just becoming more common in the workplace. Historically, they were worn, laborers had a tendency to get dirty, so they were viewed as more or less unprofessional. I think times have changed a bit on that. I also think that we have professional staff on our staff that can make the decisions on what they wear on a daily basis, and they will look professional. And furthermore, if there's any issues with dress code or violations, we can address them on a case-by-case basis, so that's my.
Chair, if I can make a comment?
I guess, why don't we take it one at a time?
Mike.
Thank you, John.
Mine is on.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
Was that no to my request?
I figured that we do 4.1 first for discussion, because,
That's fine.
okay.
My only comment was going to be that, both of these issues are before the board for discussion tonight, The first one was, I think, probably most obviously at my request for my staff. The second one was because our HR committee was split on it, and we decided to bring it to the board and see what you guys had to say, what input you might have for that issue. But I would be more than happy to discuss the first request, which is to provide for overtime for my staff after 8 hours of work on election day. Or, well, actually, that's not what it says. It says,
1.5 times.
This would be, they would be eligible for overtime.
during elections is what it says.
It says additionally, full-time election staff will be paid at 1.5 times their regular rate for after their first 8 hours worked during elections.
Right, what I had first said was on election day, when, what it actually says is during elections, which I also appreciate because they can work late on Mondays, the Monday before the election. They can often, work late on Friday before the election, but most definitely they work late on election day. When they start at 6 in the morning, and this August and November, we will likely not get home until, well, this last election, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, so that happens.
This is just applying to your hourly or salary or whatever staff though, right? Not your election workers.
This request is about my staff.
Okay. Okay, that helps me understand, because when I was reading this, my first thought was all election workers, and then I saw full-time election staff, and I was confused about who that was. So this is just
Staff
township employed
is,
full-time staff that also do elections.
our election workers are temporary part-time workers. This is with regard to my election staff.
Right, okay. Yep, I
And
understand now.
Claire, I'm sorry, you said something, but I couldn't hear it.
Where's your sign?
I can't even read
I know, I
from
can't.
here.
Well, and I think they come in on Saturdays, the Saturday before elections too. And so if that.
Oh,
fell-
yeah,
And so
so-
if that fell on a holiday, that would short them as well. Or
Yeah,
would that
we've actually had 2 instances. The one instance was where the holiday was the week before, so that when they came in on the Saturday, they did not get their overtime for working on a Saturday. And then the time before that was the Veterans Day fell on a Friday, and so they didn't qualify for overtime. We did make them whole. They got an election bonus that time. At my request. We worked within the purchasing policy to pay them those dollars. It was less than $400, excuse me. I'd be happy to answer any other questions if you guys want to know what we do during that time.
Nope, I just think that for sure they should be paid time and a half after 8 hours.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And they will appreciate that as well.
I agree they should be paid time and a half. What about election workers getting paid time and a half over 8 hours?
Well, I have another request that will be coming before the board.
At a future time.
Maybe a different time. Not actually with regard to election workers, but possibly with regard to encouraging our staff to be election workers. Of course, this board, it's under their purview to change the pay of our election workers at any time. Well, I mean, I can change it and then just hope the budget follows, but
So even though I completely support this, just for completeness, how many employees do you have?
2.
And, I mean, your total financial impact's almost, is minimal then. It's
About one
It's-
ISP.
Like maybe 200 for the each election.
I mean, I would hate to say, I would ask that we be careful with our words on that, because it obviously means a lot to the workers.
the impact to the
But
budget.
to our overall budget, it is a very minimal impact, yes.
That was my intent, just to
Yeah.
ensure that. Thank you.
Are there any other questions about the changes to compensation, section 4.1, subsection D2?
No, are we moving these separately, or are we just kind of?
We're not moving.
Well,
That's
no,
right, that's right.
if someone's comfortable making a motion on this, I would entertain a motion, but
Okay. I move to adopt the amendments to section 4.1 subsection D2, overtime rate of pay, as presented and discussed.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by treasurer Bushka. Any discussion on the motion? I guess, and I will open up for taking a vote. Anyone in the public wishing to make any comment? I'll close public comment. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? So the update to section 4.1 of township staff's compensation regarding overtime for the clerk's office is passed. Next, we'll move to section 5.3, discussion on the personal appearance standards as presented by Sarah. Are there any questions to Sarah concerning this?
Sarah, what was the controversy? I'm not understanding the controversy here.
Well, I don't know if we need to rehash the HR committee's discussion.
I mean, I'm not
And-
being
and
that
I'm just
granular,
saying,
but
The HR committee is Clerk Farmer, Treasurer Bushka, myself, and the HR director.
We
And-
were split.
And we had no less than, well, you can see the first time Sarah brought these changes for consideration was back in February, and we've had multiple conversations since then. And actually, before the changes, there was conversation. So I'll just throw, so from my perspective, and you heard Sarah share kind of a little bit of the history. I think that there is, from my perspective, there's two things going on. Number one, I came up under jeans weren't in the workplace, in an office environment particularly. So I will own that as a Gen Xer, that is where I came up under. As a supervisor, I know this policy exists, and it is constantly being broken by staff, and it is a huge point of irritation for me trying to be a manager of people. So the only reason I'm bringing it forward for consideration and discussion by this board is direction from the board about what way we go, so that it either gives me, it points a clear direction, because it is difficult to know, or it is a personal point of rub for me, knowing that it's an intentional breaking of policy, and so I need to hear, times are a-changing, I get it.
What do you need to hear? Our support or not support of this?
I need to hear, I mean, from me, I just.
One
this-
way or another, it's important that staff follows the policy, as we have said multiple times tonight. Policy has to reflect what we're doing. And I think that piece is important to everybody on the HR committee, is that whatever the outcome is, we were split, we brought it for board discussion, but whatever it is, it will be enforced, because we have to do we're doing what our policy says.
So when I look at section 5.3, what's presented here, business casual definition, perfect sense to me, no problems whatsoever. Dress down Friday, what is this, a junior high? If you
thought
want to
that
wear a
was
sports
t-shirts.
shirt, get a polo with Michigan State on it, or, whatever. I don't want barefoot hippies walking around behind the counter in sandals. Like,
No
come
barefoot,
on.
got it.
well, and to your point, I mean, if you have a business casual policy that allows neat jeans, as it says, do you really need the dress down Friday? That might be going a little.
Yeah, if you got
I'm rather
jeans on, I don't-
conservative.
I don't think you
I don't
need
need
to
to
dress
Full
down
testament,
Friday.
I'm wearing jeans.
If changing the personal appearance standards includes adding neat blue jeans, no tears, holes, or frays, into regular attire, then dress down Friday no longer is relevant, in my opinion.
I agree with that.
I think so
Yes.
too, but
I-
I think proper footwear in an office should just, no matter what.
No open-toed shoes.
I don't
Well,
know,
in
when I see
medical-
sandals, I just
medical,
think about somebody
like,
wearing
you can't
barefoot
have
sandals. in
open-toed
here.
shoes. It's like a,
And I just don't want to see, people don't have pretty feet.
It's so dangerous. I drop things all the
All
time.
the time.
It's just really dangerous to have your toes out.
Canada,
And I will
stupid
step on them.
progressive
I'm
superfly.
clumsy. I will step on them.
The most
Drop it on my
significant
kids.
change here is
Jeans.
the adding jeans as an appropriate attire for work. And I guess,
Which, I'm kind of with you, like, I'm old school, and so when I walk into a professional building, I don't expect to see jeans. I'm not saying that makes somebody less competent or somebody less professional, but it's not something that I expect to see.
Okay.
And the
They outed themselves. They are the dissenters.
And the research that we've showed, I think recently, or there you are, I'm like, where'd you, other municipalities do not allow jeans.
that is correct.
But you know, the thing, and I get that, I'm fairly conservative in my dress, because I can't dress myself well. But I think that if I'm coming to a place like this, as a citizen, I feel more comfortable speaking with a person who is dressed similar to me. If I go to a medical professional building, I have a different set of standards. But I think that our township being a mix of rural and suburban, somewhat little tinge urban, I think it's acceptable. And I think that it represents our community, because every time I've come in, you know, I don't see a lot of our clients or our citizens dressed to the nines. And I think that I think it's okay, and I think it allows comfort for both sides. I just think it will increase comfort. Now, that said, I hope you'll enforce, you know, jeans have to be at a certain level and such, not hanging down, and not, I know it says not wholly, not tattered, but, you know, professional jeans are appropriate. And I think as things are changing in our workforce and our generations are starting to change, a lot of expectations are falling. Ties with men are falling, and, you know, other things are just starting to come down, and I think it's appropriate. I don't think it will be offensive, and I don't think it will make our citizens feel like they're getting less attention or less respect. My 2 cents. And confession again, I'm wearing jeans.
Any
They
other
are not blue.
thoughts, considerations?
What I heard was that if we allow neat jeans, we would have no need for dress down Friday.
I don't think so. For students.
So then I want to fully understand the implications of that.
I want to wear my Michigan State shirt on Friday. I can't wear
Well, so that would, is that to say that he could wear a Michigan State
Yeah.
sweatshirt Monday through Friday?
I don't care what you guys wear, man. I don't.
I don't know that
I'm
the
trying
intention.
to. I'm trying really hard.
I don't know if
Well,
the
and
intention
so
of
there-
the HR committee was to make that drastic of a change.
Right.
So,
Sarah, you spoke to somebody's definition of business casual,
Yeah.
including neat jeans. Now, I hate to get into that. I
There's
don't
no
know
way
anything about
sweatshirt was on
style,
that.
but like, what's that?
I said, there's no way sweatshirt was on that list.
No.
Or t-shirts.
No, but like, is there anything about T-shirts, or does it only refer to like the collared shirt?
Let me
the
pull it
following
up.
items will be inappropriate for
Inappropriate
business
for business
casual.
casual.
T-shirts, tank tops, beach sandals, flip-flops. I mean, we didn't talk about
Oh, we're just referring to
sweatshirts.
our own definition. I thought she had a more modern
Well, but
definition
we-
elsewhere that she.
So what I pulled was a sample policy that SHRM distributes to companies to use. And their definition is casual shirts, all that, polo shirts, and then pants. It says casual slacks and trousers and jeans without holes, frays, etc. But to speak to your point about dress down Friday, I do think that we would want to keep that in because, like Jim said, and we dress down Fridays. It's kind of a thing where you can wear a T-shirt. I have a fire department T-shirt I like to wear.
That was my question, though, about T-shirts in general, because T-shirts are a lot more versatile than they were in the past, and they are much more fitted now, and like, they can be a part of business casual in my mind, so just
Yeah, but you
put the
work
T-shirt in
remote,
there.
Zach, in all fairness, you work remote 100% of the time.
I'm also 37 years old, and I've worked for a lot longer than the last 4 years.
I don't want somebody taking $12,000 tax bill and a T-shirt at the counter.
I just don't.
Well, but that
Let's
could
vote on
happen
it.
on Friday. That
Exactly.
could happen on Friday anyway.
Yeah.
If it's okay to wear one day of the week, then I get where you guys are going, but I just don't, if it's okay to wear one day of the week, why is Monday different than Friday, different than Wednesday? You know,
Michael, I
Keep it-
actually said the same thing.
keep
in our
it
discussion.
keep it simple, stupid. I'm a simple person. Keep it simple. You know what? Guys wear a collared shirt. A polo has a collar, something with a collar. And you can wear whatever pants you want. I don't,
If you guys wanna like video chat me in the morning, I can give you a thumbs up or down.
I also want to add that allowing our staff to wear T-shirts every day or jeans doesn't necessarily mean tomorrow everyone's going to come in T-shirts and jeans. People, I think that the intention is to let the staff use their best judgment for whatever job they're doing that day.
It certainly sounds like they're already doing this anyway, so if we could just make it say what's happening, I think that would work for
we
me.
could just make them wear the polos that we give them.
Right, well, yeah, yeah.
Turn the air conditioning up and. That just,
Well, remember, it's just discussion, you still get a choice.
this is bizarre.
All right,
Yeah, well, I don't think I really need to spend a lot of time explaining where I'm at on this issue.
No jeans, no T-shirts, no sweatshirts, got you.
And no, I don't wear a tie to every meeting. either,
Requires a
you know.
cardigan.
I just, no, not every meeting, I haven't worn it every meeting.
Okay.
But I just, it's what the impression is of when you walk in the door.
Yep.
And, if you're a firefighter and you're wearing a T-shirt that has fire department logo on it, looks great. That's walking up with a check for $12,000 or hopefully not cash or whatever.
It's cash,
My
too.
expectation, and again, this is probably my age and my group, walking in, I just have a higher expectation. We're not looking at people who are, stocking shelves at Myers. I'm looking at a professional group of people, not just to read professional people, but a professional organization. I just expect something a little higher level than wearing just even a T-shirt. Now, I realize things have changed, but if things seem to be changing, I don't think in the positive way. I think they're becoming more and more lax, and pretty much anything goes, and whatever you happen to wear is fine, and people don't give any second thought about it. When we're working elections, I tell my folks ahead of time who are working in my precinct, wear appropriate clothing. Jeans are fine, I don't say anything about that, but, make sure it looks good, and it's not like you just came in from mowing the yard or something like that, because you're doing a process, you're doing your job and your role is very important, and you want to give people the impression that you care enough about that and that you can be trusted to be doing the right thing. Now, that's just what I encourage my group to do, but that's not every election group does that. So every precinct doesn't have those same rules. So I have a hard time when it starts getting down to T-shirts unless your role and your job requires you or allows you maybe to go and do something that you would be wearing a T-shirt if you're working in the park or you're going to do something like that. I just look for more professional. My impression of the township and the township office is at a higher level, more professional, which probably wouldn't include jeans, but, I'm willing to bend on that. But I just think that some of the stuff just gets too far over the line, and then in another year, it's going to be, well, now let's go a little bit farther because things are changing. And then the next year, it's a little bit farther, and pretty soon it's going to be, in my impression, and of course, people walking in the door are going to get an impression. I'm not going to have a positive impression.
It's an interesting
I completely
perspective,
agree.
and I respect it, it's valid, it's honest. For me, it's different. My expectation is, am I gonna get this transaction done that I came here to do, and is the person friendly and good at it? I don't give two
And,
rips on your dress, really. but-
If I see this is
Then-
what I'm
then you
looking
know
for.
they work there,
This
right?
is
Yeah.
what I'm looking for. I can ignore everything else because, I don't judge a person by what they wear. Some people may be able to afford something, some people may not have been brought up to understand certain things. I don't judge by it. Are you polite? Are you kind? And if I'm dropping off thousands of dollars, is this clearly visible? That's all I care. I want a quick transaction. I want it to be professionally handled. And if it's $12,000, a receipt, please.
We don't give those out.
Well, if our employees can't afford business clothing,
We're not paying them.
then this board should consider paying them more. I will say, I would like to dial this back a little bit because it was not the HR committee's intention to do away with Casual Friday. I think that that's still an important piece. I mean, I had even questioned it in the past, but I think it's an important piece to the atmosphere. And although this policy is set by the board, I did tell the supervisor before this that maybe we should bring a recommendation because it is her job to set the tone in the office. And I was a little, I was hesitant to just have an open conversation. And I feel like that was justified in this conversation. We're not looking to get rid of Casual Friday. We were really more looking to settle a debate about neat jeans in the office throughout the week. I don't think it's appropriate for employees to wear their MSU sweatshirt all week, but I do love the camaraderie on Friday. I really do. I enjoy that Jim wears his MSU and Christine wears her University of Michigan and they like duke it out. It's really cool, but I don't think that we're looking to change the atmosphere of, we're not Google yet, so I don't think we're looking for drastic changes like that. And I think that might be all I have to say about that.
Kristen?
That's all I have to say about that.
That's how I felt too.
Look,
As long as I got on running.
Right on, man.
I feel like I'm out of this. I don't have an opinion one way or the other when I step in here. I don't have an opinion, honestly, one way or the other, how people are dressed when they look in, when I step in here, unless they are, you know, completely dressed down
Knock you
to the
off your
point
feet.
where you're like, what the heck? So I defer to you guys that are here full-time. I really do.
Okay. I think then, at this point, we will take this back. I've got some notes here from you all. We'll take it back to the HR work group. We will massage it a little bit more and bring it back at the next board meeting.
Massage it?
These meetings are wild, these
You
HR
know,
committee
earlier she
meetings.
said she's gonna churn dirt.
Turn,
Like, no,
turn.
she should
Oh,
churn.
did
thought
I say
Bush
churn?
said churn.
Followed by a
Churn
nice
dirt.
massage.
Comes from historic.
All right,
Mud masks.
Yeah.
it's 9:00, and I know we've covered a lot tonight. Thank you, Sarah.
What else we have?
So that'll come back 4:23. We'll schedule another meeting.
I'd like to request a discussion topic for a work session coming up. Is this an
Okay.
okay time to do that?
Sure.
I think that the township needs to have a full-time elected person in the office at all times, or very darn near it. And I've been hearing that we are not, and it's bothersome to me. I'm not hearing it from staff, I'm hearing it from some residents that have come in. And they were actually looking to yell at somebody, and there was literally nobody here to yell at.
Nuts.
That's not great.
Okay.
And that's a very good way to lose your jobs and all of our jobs. So I'd like to make sure we have that on an agenda for a work session / discussion topic.
Okey-doke.
Thank you.
That could have been under your board member comments, too.
I'm sorry, I was very excited to say it.
I'll open it up for public comment. We don't have anyone here in the public. Just no one online. So then we'll move to board member and committee updates. Zach, do you have anything else you want to add?
Nope. Thank you.
Trustee Cole?
Yep, just briefly, I know it's late. I attended the focus group for community safety last week, and basically, the one thing I wanted to mention that I did not know, and I thought this was really interesting, I had brought up the point that we have seen an increase in our neighborhoods with larcenies from vehicles, people coming in on foot, you know, walking up even long driveways to you know, steal from your vehicle, and also mail thefts. And Sheriff Fuller had mentioned that. So I had mentioned that we, in our particular neighborhood, we put together we have an HOA, but we put together neighborhood meetings to discuss this and what we wanted to do. And Sheriff Fuller said that they get grants actually to assist neighborhoods in setting up their own neighborhood,
Neighbor watch.
I guess, safety group or neighborhood watch. So I thought that's something that, I didn't know if anybody else knew about that, but it might be nice to let the community know that somehow.
Now
So
that
they
you
can take
say that,
advantage
we
of it.
did have a neighborhood that took advantage of that. It was the Whitegate neighborhood. And they, at least 2 times, had a deputy from the sheriff's department attend their meeting and provide, I completely forgot that that happened.
Yeah, and then they
Yeah, I
get grant
remember
money
when that
for it,
happened.
so.
Yeah.
It was a little weirder, but
Because I
yeah.
think it's important, I mean, obviously, you know, the police department, they can't hire enough officers, they can't. My point during the meeting was neighborhoods, we kind of need to watch out for ourselves, you know, and each other. And to form that is not always easy, so to have, you know, the sheriff's department come in and actually help neighborhoods with that, I think is really important. So,
I
it's
will,
not common knowledge.
I'll make a note in my note here of things to go, pardon me, in the next newsletter. That might be a good newsletter article.
Yeah. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Kristen. Michael?
Nothing else.
Trustee Sikora?
Thank you. Yeah, Friends of the Parks met last week. We adopted some bylaw changes that will be coming to the Township Board for review and approval. The music in the park for this summer, we're reviewing the publicity materials to get those sent out. The Historical Society, their 20th anniversary open house at the Drake Farmstead. We're continuing to work with the Friends of the Park and in particular the planning, or the Parks Director, Vanessa Street, is continuing to work to coordinate their activities with our ribbon cutting ceremony that we're having and the donor recognition of the kitchenette, the carriage barn during the OHS open house. We attended a planning meeting yesterday, and we also noted that there's a car show at Flesher Field the same day that's hosted by Kazupi's down the street here. They used to have it. It's actually, I think I may have mentioned that it was going to be here, but it's actually at Flesher Field, but it's at the same day. So we discussed having some sort of signage at both places to direct people that there's another event going on somewhere else to, you know, if you're, when you're done here, go to the other event.
What day is
But,
that going to be?
what did I just say, let's scroll back. May 19th, Saturday, May 19th. So hopefully we'll have more of those where there's multiple events that we're, you know, getting things going and getting people together. And we're also continuing to work with the public library next door to install a story walk. The Friends of the Park will be contributing funds and labor to do the installation, and the library will be obtaining the big storyboards and stuff. So that looks like a new project that should be really exciting, and will be, you know, multi-year. Will last as they keep changing the books that show up in the storybook. I also worked the last dump day on the 30th, March 30th. I was getting sign-ins and handing out vouchers, and I thought it went very well. Most people were positive or just non-committal about the new arrangement as we explained it to them when we gave them a voucher. A couple were, you know, negative, of course. I was also impressed to hear how many people had read the newsletter and said that the information about the change was in the newsletter and they had already come across it and seen it. They knew about it. My newsletter just showed up the day before. So it was nice to hear that so many people had read it and looked for it and read the whole thing. And the newsletter does seem to be very well received and read. And my compliments to everyone who puts it together and gets it out to the gets it out to the residents.
Thank you, Treasurer Sikora.
Residents. Yeah, so I'm not the only
I know, we're all-
Yeah, because obviously people look forward to it and are waiting for it and read it and get great information from it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Treasurer Bushka.
I have nothing.
All righty.
Just tapped out.
Clerk Farmer?
Thank you. So, Tonight, I had requested, so as the chair of the External Relations Committee of both the Central County Transportation Authority and the Kalamazoo County Transportation Authority, we set goals for our members to complete outreach to their, to the entities that they represent. So the CCTA membership is actually an appointment that is recommended by this board and then approved by the county commission. The KCTA is a separate application that I made. But, so for every CCTA member, they have a home base, if you will. And we request that at least 2 times a year, this is a new policy that we've created, they reach out to those municipalities, and then same with KCTA. Some of them are more general or at large, where it's sort of just South County, so we actually make assignments for each of them. But I want to say that it would have been my job to make that presentation here, but I had requested that Executive Director Sean McBride come out and do that. I will actually be doing the same presentation to Oshtemo Township at one of their board meetings. Just to give you guys an idea of the outreach that we do try to have for all of the municipalities that pay into the tax. Either you're paying into the KCTA tax, which is Kalamazoo County-wide, or you're in the fixed bus line service and you're paying into that tax. So we do want to make sure that we are getting out to those locations and keeping them updated on both current and new services, and making sure, just like Sean did today, that we have updated materials that we can hand out to residents. And that is all.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. There's another group that's going, another public, that's the same thing, like they're going to other entities as
A taxing authority, and that's
Yeah.
good. It's important.
I just have a couple of things. The township is still looking to, we scheduled some interviews, but we still have, looking to fill a full-time engineer position. The posting for, we have 4 firefighters. That posting goes down tomorrow, I believe. Robust response for those 4 firefighter positions, very robust. Development keeps on churning here in Old Oshtemo Township. Jody has really pretty well hit the ground running, still giving her some time to like learn the processes. But at our last development meeting last week, yeah, today's only Tuesday, there were 8 applications that came to that development round. So planning and public works continue to be very busy. And I think one piece of information I wanted to share with you all is that I signed the sales agreement for the 5 acres behind the church off of 9th Street. I believe Anna, Public Works, was going to move forward with whatever details are required, but that process is moving forward. And I'm happy to report that you all approved me to file for a scholarship to attend the Township Governance Academy. And I was awarded that scholarship by the MTA, so I'm looking forward into earning that credential. So thanks for supporting me. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Long night, everybody. Thank you.
I guess 9:10. I put it in the minutes. I committed to it.
No way you did not.
Yeah. I had it at the bottom of the minutes over. Yeah.